What's up, everybody? It's another week of your edition of Wakanda Whiskey and Blurredom. Hey.
Clink.
Clink.
That's funny.
I'm your host, Paul. With me is my boy, Marc.
What's going on?
How are you, sir?
Happy Memorial Day weekend out there to
Happy
everyone.
Memorial Day, man. Thank you for your service.
Now, just get ready to touch on it. So, this is not the holiday.
You gonna leave me hanging?
Clink. All right, so check it. Memorial Day is not the day that you thank a veteran for their service. Memorial Day is the day to acknowledge those men and women who have served, who lost their lives in service of this country. We memorialize their service, their sacrifice to the nation. Veterans Day, which is in November, is the one that we acknowledge people such as myself and other individuals who are going to be joining us in the chat who have actually served. But thank you for that. But just remember those men and women who've come before us who have actually served. And if you'll notice, both Paul and I are wearing identical shirts, although different colors and sizes, right? This is the recognition of the 7061st Tank Battalion, the original Black Panthers, before Bobby Seale and Huey Newton, before Stan Lee and Jack King Kirby created the character. There was a segregated tank battalion known as the Black Panthers. They came into existence in 1942. They actually began combat during the Civil War, during World War II in 1944. So these men put their lives on the line in service of this country, even though they couldn't enjoy the full benefits of citizenship due to American apartheid at that time. So shout out to the men of the 7061st Tank Battalion who gave their lives in defense of this country. Shout out to the original Black Panthers. And if you want to learn more about them, there is a show, I believe it's on Hulu, about the 761st. It is hosted or narrated by Morgan Freeman. So you guys might want to try to check that out. And if you want to pull up some of those pictures that I just sent you.
Yeah, 1 second.
And the shirts Paul and I are wearing, you can find them on Amazon for roughly $20. Is I think what I paid for mine, I think, roughly. And while he's that is their logo, and those are some of the men who were serving in the 761st. The very next picture you have is one of the more decorated personalities of World War II, who was General George S. Patton, who was portrayed by George C. Scott in the movie Patton from 1969, which, if I'm not mistaken, won Best Picture. But that is the real George Patton pinning a medal on one of the members of the 761st. So shout out to those men who, even though they were not treated as full citizens, volunteered. Because understand, a lot of Black men felt that if they volunteered to serve, they would show the white man that they were just as worthy of them of having rights. And unfortunately, that wasn't always the case. But, as I said, this weekend and Monday is to memorialize those who gave their lives in service of their country, but in this space, specifically to those Black men and women who did so during a time of American apartheid when they couldn't fully enjoy the benefits of citizenship.
All right. So thank you, Marc, for that. It's important that although we tend to focus on superheroes on these funny colored pages, that we recognize the achievements and sacrifices of our real life heroes.
Yes, that's a good point. Yes, these people were actual heroes because they were willing to put their lives on the line. There was no reincarnation. There were no special eye beams or mental powers or flight or anything of that nature. They were just regular men, specifically back in that time, but men and women who felt a call to service and ultimately gave their lives in defense of this country. So yeah, they were real life heroes. Absolutely.
In fact, I would say in that era of being a Black person who is fighting the war at home as well as the war abroad, that elevates them to superheroes in my viewpoint.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into the chat. Before we get started, we want to, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little subscribe button down there. If you're one of our regulars, thank you for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Please hit the like button. It costs you nothing, but it helps our algorithm. Share this video if you can on any social media front that you have to get the word out. We're trying to grow the space. We hit 3,000 subscribers a few weeks ago. Thank you very much for that. We're trying to keep it going, and each one of you, I appreciate you, and recognize that each one of you is an integral part of that. So please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video, and comment, and like you're doing. So let's go to these comments. Let's see who we have up in the chat. Vagrant, welcome, welcome. Bot Boy versus King
Yeah.
Sigma. Thank you, Bot, for
They're
complimenting
very
on
soft. There's some nice shirts.
Hype Style.
Amazon. You just put in 761st Tank Battalion on Amazon. The shirts will pop up. Like I said, they're about $20.
Yeah.
And they come in a variety of colors.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear this on Memorial Day. Good evening, everyone. Chad Kinsler. Tell me about the Harlem Hellfire next. Okay.
I'm not that familiar with them. I'll have to do some Googles.
Yeah, Harlem Hellfighters. They're the 761st, but the infantry. Evening, everyone. Love those shirts. Sunny night. Pericles Dragon Balls in the building on time. Awesome. Dr. Wizard in the building. All right. Reminds them of the Harlem Hellfighters. Everyone's familiar with the Harlem Hellfighters. Even Tuskegee Airmen, all heroes. Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Speaking
Speaking of Tuskegee Airmen,
let me
we
digress
did a
for
great, hold on 1 second. We did a great interview with Greg Burnham, writer Greg Burnham, earlier this week. He's the writer of one of my favorite series of all time, the Tuskegee Airs. Please check it out. Like the video. Really great guy, tremendous talent. And his career is only going to go up. So please check out that video when you have a chance from our YouTube page. What were you going to say, Marc?
Speaking of the Tuskegee Airmen, there was a show that was on Apple Plus. I want to say it was about 6 or 8 episodes. I mentioned this previously when it was running, but it was called Masters of the Air, and it was about the World War II flyers, and they specifically focused on the bomber pilots. And I took issues with the series because they then had the Tuskegee Airmen show up like the last 2 episodes. Now you have 6 or 8 episodes of a show, but then you fold in the black folks for 2 episodes and you barely tell their stories. The first, the whole series just focused on the white guys, but they weren't the only masters of the air. We got to see they had character development. We got to see all of that, but they did not focus on the black flyers the way that they should in the Tuskegee Airmen. So the series was good, but that was one of my main criticisms for that. In fact, one of the actors who played in that is the current Doctor Who. I'm not a Whovian, but for those of you guys out there who are, he had a very brief role, as did all the black actors in that series. It was a good series, but it could have been better if it had been bifurcated, as I said previously. Half of it be about the white dudes, the other half be about the Tuskegee Airmen, and then show how they came together. Because the Tuskegee Airmen were responsible for protecting the bombers when they went on their bombing runs. So yeah, they dropped the ball in that regard.
Nancy the Spider says, I can't wait for the Black Panther versus Predator miniseries. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Gaming while it's hot. Good evening. Reefer One, let's get them likes up. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Please hit the like button. Vagrant actually corrects me. I think he's referring to the Harlem Hellfighters. It says
Yeah,
World War I fought in France. The U.S. insisted the French treated them under Jim Crow law.
that happened during World War II as well, and there is a famous situation where the Black Americans were in a bar in a, small English town, and the white soldiers wanted them to be segregated and not be there. And the town came to the defense of those black folks. So these men could fight for freedom in a foreign country, but were expected to be treated as second class citizens, which is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah,
Yeah. Inside the squared circle, what's up? Vagrant, despite that the Harlem Hellfire were valiant fighters on front lines.
they all were. They
Yeah.
absolutely all were.
That's why I said these soldiers during those segregated times were, in my opinion, superheroes
Yeah,
because they had to go above and beyond that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Battle of Bomber Bridge. I'm not familiar with that one.
That might be the battle that I was just talking about in that, English city. Correct me if I'm wrong, Pericles. I just don't recall right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Wakanda Whiskey and Blurred Them. So of course we got to get into Wakanda and why? Because our boy had a book came out this week. He had, in fact, had a couple different appearances this week. All leading to what's going to happen next week, which we'll talk about later. But for
Spoilers.
this week, we have Ultimate Black Panther #4.
Give the spoiler warning.
Do I really need to give the spoiler warning?
Yep. Give the spoiler warning.
All right, yeah, we are going to spoil the hell out of this book. So let me find. Gosh darn it! I know Doctor Wizard's here, so I won't talk ill of him because he seems to take it personally. But it is not easy to find these things. You would think spoiler order would be under S, but no, that would be logical.
While you're doing that, I love this art.
Is it under memes?
Marion, don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Marion. Don't look at it no matter what happens.
Don't look at it! Keep your eyes shut!
All right. Ultimate Black Panther #4. Gonna talk about it. Here it comes. What do you
First
think?
off, let me start with the art, man. I really, 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 really like this art.
Man,
This art
Stefano
is
Caselli is
yeah,
the truth.
yeah. I like the way that he portrays T'Challa. I've not always, not in this book, but in other versions, I've not necessarily liked the way T'Challa. Oops, the way T'Challa has been drawn. Where is it? Right here. But I mean, I like this look. I like the way that he is drawn. He seems strong. Really, really enjoying this the art on this.
And
The
Stefano
story,
can draw.
yeah. So where did like what else would I know him from?
Most recently, X-Men Red
Okay. Okay. I haven't
and
read.
Sword before that.
Oh, okay. I have those. Got it. I like the way Okoye is drawn. I like the way Nakia is
Speaking
drawn.
of Okoye,
Yeah, yeah,
this scene is what opens up the book. Okoye is talking to the Wakandan people, being very inspirational. First of all, Okoye looked fine as all hell. Um, Definitely looks queen and regal like,
yeah.
worthy of the king of Wakanda.
Even
As I said, Stefano Caselli can draw black people well. Um, Very inspirational looking scene. And then you get to the splash page. Wakanda forever. That's a beautiful splash page, man.
yeah.
That should be like a poster.
So are we assuming that they're talking in Wakandan and not English, correct?
I would assume so. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Um, but going further into the book, as I said, his art is incredible. Look at this. Look at this other page between Okoye and Shuri.
Very well done.
Beautiful. These are beautiful women.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what's going on in the book, other than the exquisite art, is T'Challa is out in Wakanda trying to find Khonshu and Ra, who are basically trying to bring war to the Wakandans. And T'Challa has met up with people he's come to know as Killmonger and Storm, who are out there in the wilds fighting, basically trying to protect Wakanda on their own. There are a couple of vigilantes in Wakanda. T'Challa has actually been missing for like months. We don't know how long, but he's had no communication with his queen, with Shuri, with anybody in the capital to let them know whether he's dead or alive and exactly what's going on. As a head of state, that's just bad form. I understand T'Challa is a man of action. I get it, but you can't. You're not supposed to do that because you are the leader of your nation. You can't just go fuck about somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But in this book, he comes back for the first time in months, and he helps Okoye defeat somebody who had been sent to kill her. And this
Shuri,
image right
Shuri,
there.
Shuri. You said
I'm sorry,
Okoye.
say
It's
it again.
Shuri. It's
Yes,
Shuri.
right. It was sure. Yes. Um, I love that page right here when his mask is, going away so he can talk to her in person. That's just an extremely cool visual right there. He looks strong, he looks powerful, he looks regal in this. So he has appeared back in the capital city after months away, and an assassin had been sent to kill Okoye, and by some miracle, she woke up before she was attacked, and then Shuri followed the attacker, and with the help of T'Challa, defeated the person to try to get some answers. But as you see on the very next page, they kind of sort of disintegrated a little bit.
Again, just look. I mentioned this in the very first issue. Stefano Caselli's art is very cinematic. Look at the angle in which he's doing the scene on this particular page. The attacker is already laid out, and it's kind of like it's somewhat from her viewpoint because she's lying down. You're looking up at T'Challa and Shuri. It's just a very cinematic style. Um, I love this guy's eye.
And
His visual storytelling is excellent.
it makes T'Challa look very, very strong, very, very powerful.
Yeah,
Just that
yeah,
image.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then later on, you have the scene between, uh, I guess, the antagonist in this book, um, Khonshu and Ra. They look pretty cool too.
They do. They do. One of them is always wearing a black suit. The other one is always wearing a white suit. I just think it's very, very cool.
These guys are like the Tomax and Zaymot of Wakanda.
G.I. Joe? Yes, the
Yeah.
twins. G.I. Joe twins. Yes. Yep.
But then ultimately, T'Challa, who's been missing, no one knows if he's alive or dead, has to face his wife, Okoye, who's not happy with the fact that her husband disappeared and didn't bother to tell her where he was.
And she
Now,
is.
look, this is like a criticism that Brian Edward Hill does not shy away from when it comes to the character of T'Challa. A running theme that he's had in his relationships is the fact that he keeps things very close to the vest. He is a guarded man. This is not just one particular writer's take. It has been a fairly consistent portrayal of the man. He
It's
is a
inherent
very
in his
guarded.
nature. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
It's inherent in his nature. They've
It's
developed this
inherent in
character
his
to
nature to be
be
very
very,
secretive.
yeah. And I don't
Yeah,
think there's
and
anything wrong.
that affects his relationships, both with women in his life, with friends. Captain America doesn't like it. The Avengers didn't like it. And he revealed, "Yeah, I was kind of spying on you." It affects his relationships. That's just who he is. Wakanda is a land of secrets. He was trained from youth to be like that. He is from a nation, and understand, at the time of his youth when he was being trained, Wakanda was still not open to the world. He's the one who opened Wakanda to the rest of the world. No one else did. From his perspective, he's not really all that secretive. He's pretty liberal because he's the one that opened Wakanda to the rest of the world. His father did not, as progressive as he was. So his youth, his childhood, his training, his what he learned, his mentorship to becoming king. And then you also think about the fact that what was the most traumatic event of his life? His father being killed by whom? Outsiders, right? So this is a man who has a great reason to be reserved and to be wary of others. And that's why it's literally part of his nature to be secretive and hold things close to vest. So, but they demonstrate that in this scene. She goes, I have to stand tall before all the people who believe in us, who believe in Wakanda, and I have to tell them that I know you are protecting us, even if I have to lie. You know, he does say, hey, I should have been here. I'm not some scared girl, T'Challa, but I don't need you to watch over me. I need you to tell me the truth. No more secrets, not between us. This is literally the same conversation he had with Storm in the 616 book. She said, no more secrets. She said it in the Coates run when they were finally getting back together. And she said it when the He Who Shall Not Be Named broke up with them. I'm tired of the secrets. It's a character flaw. Yeah, it's a character flaw. You have to be honest about the character. You gotta recognize that.
You say it's a character flaw, and I understand your position, but from the outside looking in, T'Challa is arguably one of the top 10 smartest individuals on the planet, and he ain't 10.
Arguably.
And not only is he a smart, brilliant individual, but he is responsible for the health, wealth, and well-being of 10 million Wakandans or how many ever there are. So he's always thinking about other things, and there aren't a lot of people who he will be able to open himself up to. So on some level, I absolutely understand why he acts the way that he acts. I get it. I understand it. But I do also understand how if you were in his orbit, how that could be somewhat disconcerting. So
what's up, Taylor Love? What's up, Bo Biggs? Our man Jeffrey Thorne's in the house. What's up, brother? How you doing? Looking forward to your X-Force run. It has been pre-ordered, sir. A few weeks ago, Jeff told us be on the lookout for X-Force #2 that he's writing, and it was revealed last week, or I think it was last week, that the reason that was because Black Panther is going to be in that book.
good.
So Jeffrey Thorne writing Black Panther again. I'm 110% here for it. Long overdue. Sup, Louisiana Kid? Bo Biggs in the house.
That's something that you need to talk with your significant other about.
Well, I think hold
on. T'Challa was out there trying to protect people. Your ass was in the club. All right, so those are completely different things, Bo.
Taylor Love, he didn't tell her everything anyway. LOL didn't say nothing about the women of light. It's a good point. Jeffrey Thorne, right. It's not a flaw. He is the king.
Right. That is right. I mean, he can't tell everybody everything.
Like the writers, man.
As I said just a moment ago, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Is the
heavy is the hair that wears the crown,
and he has got so much stuff that he's got to think about. He can't necessarily just take the time to offload to any and everybody. Number one, they won't necessarily understand what he's talking about. But two, he doesn't have the time. You know what I'm saying? He's fighting galactic ending threats as well as trying to make sure that his people are safe. So, yeah, I mean, I get it.
T'Challa's not one of those kings who has the attitude of everybody wants to be a king until it's time to do king shit. He's doing king shit constantly.
I have no issues with anything that he does. Um, the writer previous to Dr. Ewing made some of his actions seem like they were nefarious when they were not. Um, he is the true definition of a king because
Yeah.
he is responsible for Wakanda and the Wakandans, and he does any and everything that he can to make sure that they are safe and protected. So I have no issues with that.
Everything and anything.
Go to the last page and then we can move on.
One second. Pericles says we can trust Jeff to do right by T'Challa than most X-Fighters.
That is
Facts.
correct. That is correct.
Greg Edmondson.
Hey, what's up, Greg? That's my homeboy. You've met him, actually.
All right. So let's check out this last page of this book.
Look at that, what he's wearing.
Which was the big reveal.
He's not wearing blue and white. He's not wearing purple and gold. He's not wearing crimson and cream. He's wearing black and gold.
Why is black and gold significant, Mark?
T'Challa would most definitely be an alpha, without question. So let me ask you this: what do you think about the portrayal of Killmonger? I don't know if I'm a fan of that. I'm gonna be honest with you.
He hasn't really said much yet. What he has said has been very introspective. He's way deeper than the Killmonger of the 616 universe. He's certainly more thoughtful.
So, but what do
we
you think
don't know anything about him yet.
Character design is what I'm getting at.
Think about his what?
His character design. Visually, how do you think he looks?
It's okay. He certainly looks younger than T'Challa, the new take.
Right.
We don't really know much else about him. I love the axe thing. That's kind of cool.
But it's not really practical because he's got a knife blade on the hilt on the end of it, which in combat that could impale him. So I don't know if that's a really wise design.
Depends on how skillful he is. But remember, we did see him throw the axe. I don't know if he has a mutant ability or not, or if it's just one of those I can throw the axe and know exactly where it's going to boomerang back to me like Captain America.
We don't really know anything about him. We don't really know that much about him. We do know that she's got powers, but it has been a very surface level introduction to these two characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Storm looks good. Does Storm look like Megan Good in this picture? Shoot. God damn it. Let me get it back. Sorry about that.
As an aside, while he's trying to do that, go to your local liquor store, pick up some Uncle Nearest rye. It is not a bad sip.
It tastes better than it did when we initially were drinking it. I think it just opened up more.
I'm not a huge fan of ryes in general because they tend to be more harsh on my palate, but this is a pretty tasty one. This one and the Greenwood is pretty good. But no, I would not say this is Megan Good.
Storm. Does that look like Megan Good?
No, not to me. It doesn't.
To me, it looks like Megan Good.
But I do like, T'Challa looks so very strong here. It just, this is a very good, I love this dude's art. Love this art. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So basically what we have here is before this, after T'Challa, the king, got cussed out by his wife, which should never happen, but that's just me. He told her, look, there are very few people that we can trust because there are spies or whatever amongst us. I want you to meet me at this specific location. Don't tell anybody that you're coming. And once you get here, this will be our circle. So basically, this is Wakanda telling his wife, Okoye, that these are the only people that they can trust in Wakanda to defeat Moon Knight, aka Khonshu and Ra. Now, I will say that I think those twins who, at the very, very beginning of the series, found Khonshu and Ra, I think that they probably could be trusted. And quite frankly, they're the ones who should have been out there in the field scouting. But I do understand that, this is family with Shuri, but the other two who he just met, he spent a month, 2 months with him out there in the field. I mean, I somewhat get it, but I say all that to say I think those other two brothers should have been included in his inner circle as well, personally.
Taylor Love makes a very astute observation. She says this comic, Shuri was supposed to take the throne. It didn't happen. I think he'll change the story. We also didn't learn what Killmonger and Storm taught T'Challa. So
Right.
here's the thing. She's absolutely correct. If you look at the solicit for this book, it says Shuri seizes the throne. With T'Challa missing and presumed dead, well, T'Challa wasn't even supposed to be in this issue. Wakanda needs a new leader. Shuri wants war against Ra and Khonshu more than T'Challa ever did, but at what cost? Meanwhile, Black Panther must learn from his new allies, the Freedom Fighters, Killmonger and Storm. That's
So
a
it's
completely
different
different story than what we got in this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Brian Hill changed the story around. So we really don't know what's coming next. Maybe
So I
this
wonder if it's
will
gonna be a
go up in
flashback.
issue number 5.
So I wonder if it's gonna be a flashback as far as what he learned from Killmonger and Storm. But yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like there's an issue missing between what we had in 3 and this solicit and then what we got in 4.
Because remember in the previous issue, the last thing we saw with T'Challa was that Killmonger and Storm showed him that temple with the big green orb, where he learned that vibranium exists in other places and whatever it is that he learned in that temple. We don't know.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point. So there's
that's
something missing, and we just
very
want
good observation, Taylor Love.
yeah, something is missing, and we wonder if it's gonna be picked back up later on. But otherwise, yeah, that is a huge quote unquote plot hole. Overall, I am enjoying the story overall. This particular issue, I almost want to say it was somewhat like a filler issue. Not a lot happened as far as action or things of that nature. If on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give this specific issue like a 6. But the series overall has me anticipating what's coming next, and I am enjoying it. I know I saw over on the Twitters people were wondering, when is the action going to happen or whatever. But it's a slow burn. Let me put it that way. It is a very slow burn. So
I think that was the same criticism that the last writer of Black Panther, Eve Ewing, people had, is that it was a slow burn because they're world building, they're cooking, man, they're marinating the food, and we're not used to that because oftentimes, a lot of these black titles only have like 4 or 5 issues, so you kind of got to get to the action pretty quick.
no,
Hype style has an interesting question. He says, "Is Ultimate Eric Killmonger's name explained? Still a native Wakanda? We don't know anything about this dude yet. We know
right.
literally nothing." There's
5
something.
panels over 4 books with him. So no, we don't really know much at all.
Say that again.
I said we've had maybe 5 or 6 panels with him over 4 books. So
Yeah.
our knowledge or information on that character is pretty limited. So
Elika Spain says, "I
right,
don't like it. I need Killmonger to be 6'7" and physically imposing."
right.
Yeah,
That's
he
the
doesn't
one from the
seem
jump
bigger
out.
than T'Challa.
Yeah.
Dothverse says, "Greetings, BCL. What's up, man?" Anansi the Spider, agree the Storm in that art looks like Megan Good. Yeah, it's not just me. Taylor, I want to know what Storm looking like. That's why she looking. That's Mr. Steal Your Man. I want. Yeah. All right. So next up, excuse me. We had well, do you want to talk about the other Wakanda related stuff?
No, go on to the next book.
I guess we'll leave that for well, a little bit later in the episode. We're going to talk about there's been a solicits for issue 5 for Ultimate Black Panther. So we'll talk about that later on. So next book we have is Blood Hunt #2.
Before we go to that though, I bought this Blood Hunt variant to #1. And
Yeah.
I probably have like 5 issues of Blood Hunt #1. And let me just say, I really like this book. I like this art. This cover obviously has T'Challa on it. You've got T'Challa, you've got Captain America,
He's not
and
Captain America, Sam Wilson.
Right. You have Captain America on it. So you've got two black superheroes on the cover of this variant of Blood Hunt #1. So if you can find it, go ahead and pick it up. But Blood Hunt #2 dropped this week. I am really, really enjoying the storyline. For those who don't know, basically, Blade is the big bad of this storyline. If you read Brian Hill, the writer of Ultimate Black Panther, if you read his Blade run, Blade inadvertently released a big bad entity. In order to defeat this entity, Blade had to go into some dark places to develop some skills, powers, and abilities to defeat that character. We were of the opinion that when he opened that portal into the dark side to defeat the big bad, it led him to be the big bad of this Blood Hunt series. He figured out basically a way to make all Dark Force users on planet Earth explode their Dark Force powers to blot out the sun. So vampires, who of course are allergic to UV rays, for them to be able to walk around planet Earth unencumbered and basically just take over. It is a vampire world. Some Dark Force users are Cloak from Cloak and Dagger, the Russian chick, Dark. What's her name? I can never remember her name.
So Magic
No, no, no. The Russian chick.
Dark Star? No.
Dark Star. Dark
Yeah, Dark
Star.
Star.
Who else?
Silhouette.
Silhouette. Silhouette. Yes. So basically, you have all these heroes, anti-heroes, and villains who tap into the Dark Force power. Their abilities run amok. It exploded from them, blotted out the sun, so all these vampires can come. So now you have the superheroes fighting against all of these blood suckers. And Blade was very, very smart. He took out pretty much the Avengers as his first chess move. Dracula, if you haven't picked it up, pick up Blood Hunt Dracula. In Blood Hunt Dracula, Dracula, the king of the vampires, goes and finds Blade's daughter, who lives here in Atlanta. Don't know her though. He gets her to help him fight against the other vampires. And in Blood Hunt 2, we see very early on that she's out there fighting against vampires alongside Count Dracula. Love this story. I absolutely love this story. It's action packed. You don't know what's going to happen. It is extremely well done. Also, I should mention in this book. So I can't remember which book it was, one of the Blood Hunt tie-ins, but you had the new Moon Knight because Marc Spector has died somehow. You have the new Moon Knight and Tigra team up
He's
with
not
Miles.
Moon Knight, Hunter's Moon.
Hunter's
He's just
Moon.
another physical conchu.
Right. And Miles Morales, they're out there in the streets fighting. They end up at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, right? Now, one of the interesting things about that, in issue #1, Blade shows up at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. Doctor Strange is there with his wife, Clea, who is a sorcerer supreme in her own right. And they're basically trying to figure out a way to defeat vampires. They were going to come up with a spell to basically destroy all vampires on planet Earth. Blade, knowing that they were probably going to do that, comes in and basically turns Doctor Strange into a vampire. And so, in order to prevent Doctor Strange from kind of running amok, Clea separates his astral self from his physical body. So his astral self is unaffected with vampirism, but his body is just like going crazy because he's been turned into a vampire. So Tigra, Hunter's Moon, and Miles Morales show up at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum in order to try to get some assistance. And one of the things that was interesting about that we mentioned when we reviewed issue #1 is at some point in issue #1, Blade meets up with Miles Morales on the street. And so they have one brief panel where they're interacting. This is before we knew that Blade was the big bad. You don't see Miles Morales again until this issue. And jumping forward at the end of this issue, as they're in the Sanctum Sanctorum of Doctor Strange, Miles Morales turns into a vampire. And I expected it to happen, but it was pretty spectacular. But going back in the book, the Avengers have their own floating spaceship as their headquarters,
The Impossible City.
the Impossible City. And as I said before, Blade he's a very good tactician. He took them out. He has who does he have? So he's got Thor. He incapacitated Thor, the Scarlet Witch, and Black Panther T'Challa. Right?
That's the first issue, though.
No, this is issue 2. This is
Okay.
issue number 2. And so T'Challa is now a vampire. Now, one of the things I find interesting about that is it is well established in comic book lore that T'Challa has a healing factor. It's somewhat interesting and surprising to me that his healing factor didn't kick in automatically to cure him of the vampirism. For example, Logan, Wolverine, could not be a vampire because his healing ability would automatically burn that out. Now, I know T'Challa's healing factor isn't as strong as Wolverine's, but he's got one. So it just makes me wonder.
It's explained by the fact that there's going to be a Black Panther blood hunt issue in which the Black Panther, who is in charge of his faculties, decides to make the trip back to Wakanda. Because the Black Panther, as he stands right now, is how should we say, not in a good place. He is a stark raving mad.
He's a vampire. He's a child of the night.
He's a monster. This is T'Challa now.
Right.
Um,
Now, when you said a
Mad
second ago that it was episode or issue
that's
1,
Pepe Larraz on the visuals in this book.
yeah.
Look at the detail of this face, right down to the eyes.
So here's this is going back to what you were saying a second ago, and I understand why you said that, Paul. But in issue 1, right here, it looks as if he's somewhat vampiric here, but he wasn't. This is before he was turned. So the image in issue 2 looks similar, but it is not the same because in issue 1 he was not a vampire yet. He was not defeated and bitten yet. So I do understand why that mistake was made. But Blade is, basking in his glory in the Impossible City. He's moving pieces across the chessboard, and from all extents and purposes, it looks like he has won. And he's basically sending T'Challa out there to find somebody. Who does he send him out to get? I can't really remember right now. But this is a very good book. On a
I
scale
want
of
to
1
point
to
out
10.
a few things that I enjoyed about the book. First, again, as I mentioned, the visuals by Pepe Larraz are just absolutely top notch. This portrayal of Brielle Brooks' bloodline is hands down the best image of her I've seen so far since the
Yes,
character was
yes,
introduced.
that is correct.
This one singular image is the best picture I've ever seen of her. Right down to the red in her eyes, which I thought was a really nice touch. I hadn't seen anybody do that yet.
Yeah.
Really, really dope. Really, really dope. And then the next interesting thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I would have liked to see that art style on the Bloodline comic.
Exactly. When she had her solo series, you and I agreed that our biggest criticism of the solo series is that the art style of that particular book the art style that was used in that book did not fit that book.
Right.
This is the art right here. Yep. This is the bloodline I wanted to see in her solo series.
She looks older than 15 or 16, though. That's the only criticism that I would have because she looks like she's a character in her 20s or whatever. But as far as the art style, she looks like a complete and total badass.
The other thing I wanted to point out was the return of the Avengers. understand, last issue, these guys all got their asses kicked.
Yeah.
But what they point out in this return, and that was a criticism when I was checking different comments people were making on the internet about Blood Hunt 1. A lot of people were saying, I don't like how the Avengers are defeated so easily. Because understand, this Avengers team, these are the alpha dogs. These are like the best of the best Avengers that have ever been. Just about. I mean, not including guys like, obviously Blue Marvel, which Marvel's not going to put in any book anytime soon. Or Monica Rambeau, but this is like the near top guys that they've had on a team. Every single person on this particular Avengers team has been a leader, a chairperson of the Avengers at one point or other. Every single one of them.
I don't think Thor ever had.
Sam Wilson, Iron Man, Carol Danvers, Vision, Thor, Black Panther. Every single one of them have been leaders of the Avengers at one
I
point
don't
or other.
recall that Thor or Scarlet Witch ever had.
They have absolutely Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch was during the Kree Skull War, the Kree Skrull War. She was chairperson back in the 80s.
Monica Rambeau was the leader at that time.
There was Monica Rambeau was also leader.
Right.
But yeah, Scarlet Witch was no, I'm thinking of the Wasp. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm thinking of the Wasp.
Right.
Not Scarlet Witch.
Right. Scarlet Witch has never been the leader of the Avengers, and I don't think Thor, despite being a god, an immortal god,
Thor was very brief. Thor was very briefly the chairperson for like an issue or two, as Vision was as well.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, these are the alpha dogs of Avengers. And they got defeated pretty easily, but the difference is when they come back this time, they're prepared because they got jumped. It's kind of like they got a drive-by shooting or something. They literally got jumped by the Blood Coven, and this time they know what they're facing, and they do a far better time against them the second time around.
For those who don't know, the Blood Coven are a group of 4 or 5 super enhanced vampires that Blood has brought together to be his sycophants. One of whom is the actual clone of Vlad Tepes, aka Dracula. I don't remember the names of the other ones, but they each had powers and abilities that matched up well with specific Avengers, and as Paul said, just kind of took them out. The ship, the Impossible City, has what do you call that? When you teleportation. There we go. The city has teleportation abilities. So T'Challa had the Avengers who were down but not out, had them teleported off the Impossible City so they could avenge them that had fallen. So yeah.
What have we said before? A king doing king shit. Sacrifice himself for the greater good. That's what T'Challa does. But look, Carol Danvers is like, look, even at half strength, we're still the Avengers. Like, she's got light powers or energy powers. She kind of tore through the dark force and let the sun in to allow the Avengers to shine. So you have the splash page of basically the new Avengers team that is assembled, adding Dracula and Bloodline to their midst, surrounded in sunlight, and all the Blood Coven can't attack them.
Where is Monica Rambeau? Because Monica Rambeau can turn into UV light, and this is kind of a gaping plot hole to me. And I understand that a lot of times when you're watching movies or series or whatever, if you think, well, if this happened, this movie or series would be 5 minutes long. It's kind of the same thing with her. So thank you, Darkstar. Hold on a second with the comments. That's one of the things that's missing, is that Monica Rambeau should be a part of this. And there should be an explanation as to where she is, why she's not involved, if there was a way that they countered her or something, because that's all I'm thinking about is, okay, where's Monica Rambeau?
Let me go through the comments real quick. First of all, Jeff says X-Force 2 will not be what you expect. Is T'Challa a Skrull? I don't know. Well, if he says it's not going to be expected, I take him at his word.
I have no expectations. I'm just looking for
Dragon Balls.
Dark Star is the Russian chick who was a member of the Russian version of the Avengers. I don't remember what their name.
I
Their
don't
name
remember
is.
the name of the team.
Yeah.
Jaron says Brielle and Miles are getting together.
That
Well,
would be a good pairing. That would be a good pairing.
in this week's issue of Spider-Men, which is the team-up book between Peter and Miles, it's a date issue in which Peter is going on a date with the alternate universe Gwen Stacy, and Miles is going on a date with Kamala Khan, a double date. I don't think that book, based on what I saw, I question whether that book takes place in the 616 universe. Because as we all know, Miles is dating Starling, as far as I know. So I'm not certain that book is in our present time period. It even seemed like it was slightly in the future.
I don't
But
see.
if Miles were to break up with Starling, which I wouldn't want, because as I said before, they're the only Black superhero couple in mainstream comics in an ongoing title. The only one. Marvel and DC, it's the only one. So I'd hate to see them break up. But if he did break up, I wouldn't mind seeing him with Brielle Brooks because they
Yeah.
get along. They get
Yep.
along pretty well.
The only issue is that long distance thing, which can be a pain. But yeah,
So she's in Atlanta and he's in Brooklyn.
correct.
Blurred Forever clarifies for me. Scarlet Witch was the leader in the West Coast Avengers.
West Coast Avengers, but I'm talking about the main Avengers. But yeah,
No, I was talking about all Avengers titles because Sam Wilson wasn't the leader of the main Avengers. He was a leader of the Mighty Avengers. So every single person on this current Avengers squad has been a leader, which leads me to question when Storm joins the Avengers in a few months. She's the only member of the Avengers who's never been a leader. And in the solicit, it says that one of the reasons they recruited her is for her leadership ability. So it may very well be postulating and putting it out there. They might make Storm the new chairperson of the Avengers, which would be dope as hell.
I can do that. She's been a leader of the X-Men, so it makes sense.
Yeah, she has more than enough qualifications. She's been a
Right.
leader longer than most of those other people on the team.
She's not a DEI hire.
Yeah, she is not. She is more than qualified.
But going back to the Blood Hunt series, I am really enjoying this series. It's got me excited to the point that I'm buying the tie-ins as well. This is Blood Hunt Spider-Man, which is good. As I mentioned a moment ago, I have Blood Hunt Dracula, which I highly recommend because it ties directly into Blood Hunt 2. So this is one of the crossover events that I've been excited about, the most excited about over the past 10 years. Most of the other stuff that comes out is like hit or miss. I don't really care. During the the Null storyline, the only thing that I got was Jeffrey Thorne's Black Panther tie-in. Most of these,
I think literally that was the only thing I got. That and there was a Monica Rambeau story in Symbiote Spider-Man. I think it was the only thing
I got was Jeffrey Thorne's Black Panther. But this has been the crossover storyline that I've been most excited about, probably since Secret Invasion. Obviously I've purchased other ones that came after that, Siege and Fear. I got them, right? But because they were Thor centric and I'm a Thor guy, but I was never really excited about it. This one I am excited about and I'm enjoying it.
Jeff said good taste.
Oh,
Let's see. Mighty Mr. J says, is Misty Knight and Sam Wilson still together? I know they were for a bit during. I believe they are. They got back together at the end of what was it? Sam Wilson's Captain America book. They got back together.
Okay. That's why I wanted to bring this one up. All right, real quick. Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt. The reason why I had this one pulled out is because Misty Knight, speaking of Misty Knight, thank you for that. She makes an appearance in this, and she has a very large role in this book. So if you are a fan of Misty Knight, you should get this Amazing Spider-Man because she features in this. She's teamed up with Spidey, Peter Parker, trying to find Morbius because they were trying to find a cure to vampirism. And Misty's partner, Jessica Jones, I believe, is who it is.
No.
What's her name?
Colleen Wing.
Thank you. Colleen Wing and Morbius were kidnapped, and so Misty enlists Peter Parker Spider-Man to try uh, to rescue Colleen and Morbius. So yeah, it's a good book. That one's good. So that's why I pulled that one out.
Yeah. Let's see. Hype Style says Dark Stars teams, LA champions, Soviet super soldier, People's Protectorate, Supreme Soviets, Winter Guard.
Winter Guard was the Captain America analog. You had this dude who turned into a bear. You had a guy who was a Thor analog. I can't remember his name, but yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. So next book. Oh yeah. Yeah. This book was a big deal. Doom
So
number
giant size one shot. This is a one shot. We don't know if this storyline takes place in the 616, and quite frankly, it probably does not.
no.
But the only reason why I know about this book, as I've mentioned time and time again in this space, previously I never paid attention to who creatives were. I paid attention to the books. If it was a book or character that I liked, I picked it up, not knowing who was the artist, writer, illustrator, anything, right? But because over the past 3 to 5 years I've paid more attention to this, I knew the name Sanford Green. Sanford Green wrote, who is an, if I'm not mistaken, he's an Eisner Award winning comic book writer. The Eisners are equivalent to comic books the way the Grammys are to music, the Oscars are to movies, the Emmys are to TV, and the Tonys are to stage acting. So it's kind of a big deal. So I recognize this name because of his work on the series Bitterroot, which I absolutely love. So Sanford Green, is the illustrator of this book, which is written by Jonathan Hickman. And as we know, Jonathan Hickman is one of the top 5 best comic book writers out there right now, and he ain't number 5. In this storyline, you have Doctor Doom, who had gone up against Galactus. Now, normally, you wouldn't think that that would be a thing you want to do, but Doctor Doom, being the brilliant scientist that he is, created a giant size armor to go up against Galactus, and he was somewhat defeated in his endeavors. But his god,
he was found wanting.
right, his goddaughter Valeria Richards basically comes to his rescue. Doctor Doom is a megalomaniac. He is arrogant, but the one thing that I will say, he absolutely loves Valeria Richards. I have no doubt in my mind that he would kill or die for her. And in fact, she loves him. There is no way around it. She loves him. And so
That's her Uncle Doom.
yeah, yeah. She basically helps Doom get back together so that he can try to continue to fight Galactus, the world ender. And it was a very good book. It's not part of any continuity. It's not anything that has anything to do with what's going on in 616. But as a one-off story, it is a good story. And I love Sanford Green's art style. Very
I
good.
mean, whenever you have a top tier writer and a top tier artist come together and put together a story of this magnitude in a one shot, it's a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
This book is selling like hotcakes in the aftermarket.
Really?
I believe the cover A is selling for like $20. And
Really?
the cover price, yeah, the cover price was like $4.99 or something.
Why,
But now
why?
it's selling on eBay for like over $20.
That's
The
crazy.
cover, the Addy Granoff cover with just Doom on it is selling for far like twice that, like $40, $50.
That's crazy.
This book is really, really popular. Shout out to my man Sanford Green, because although there weren't any black characters per se in this book, he managed to squeeze in quite a few in a huge cameo, which I thought was dope. Right here, this splash page. I mean, you got Cloak, you got Deathlock, Monica Rambeau, Dr. Voodoo, there's Devil Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. This is the first sighting of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur since that series a while ago. Thunderball, Miles Morales, Blade. They're all going up against Galactus. Now understand, I love Blade to death. There ain't no reason Blade should be going up against Galactus.
There's no reason that any of those individuals in that panel should be going up against Dr.
What's Miles Morales going to do against Galactus?
They have Howard the Duck. There is nothing that Howard the Duck can do to Galactus at all. It's just a waste of time and energy. Elektra, what's she going to do? Stab him in the foot and he can't feel it? This page,
Sunspot's in here. America Chavez is here. This page makes absolutely no sense, but that's why I love it, because he purely threw it in there just to throw in a bunch of characters, so people would be like, well, what about this? What about that? And he had an opportunity to throw in a whole bunch of black characters on one page, so I'm here for it. I love this little splash page, even though it makes no logical sense
at all. But it's a good book. I recommend that specific book. But again, if you don't have it, you're not missing out on anything from the 616. Now I just went over
to Ilika Spain for the super chat. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that tremendously. And with that, you get this. Thank you for helping us pay the rent on the Black Comic Lords, because it ain't cheap.
So I just went on eBay, and this cover right here, cover A of this book, somebody has a graded copy of 9.8 over on eBay for $150 plus $15 for shipping and handling. So I say all that to say there's a lot of CTE going on out there. There is no way that this book is worth $150. I'm sorry.
What is CTE?
What football players get when they bang into each other.
Say it again.
CTE, the head trauma thing that football players have after banging into each other for 30 years.
Oh.
Brain damage, basically.
I Manifesto got to be a huge armor for Galactus.
It was. I mean, he had a 200-foot suit. So yeah.
Mighty Mr. J, Sanford Green really did his thing with this book. Some of those splash pages are insane. They really are. The detail that he puts into his splash pages are incredible. Bo Biggs didn't know that was Deathlock. I thought that was MF2. Howard the Duck versus Rocket with Raccoon. Pericles Dragon Balls. I want to check it out to see if Ghost Rider is there. He was. It was the Jaime Reyes Ghost Rider was in there. He absolutely was. And shout out to Mr. Bo Biggs with the $10 super chat. Thank you, sir. With that, you, sir, get this.
Donation. It's a donation. I thought it was the trash. Don't be hitting on me.
Thank you.
All right. Now, what's the next book that we have?
Green Lantern War Journal.
Green Lantern War Journal. Go ahead and start on that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. This series, as a series, we're on issue number 9. It's kind of mundane. I'm not excited about this book at all. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's okay. I like the beginning of the story, talking about the not the Watchers, the Guardians of Oa their old incarnation. There was a mythology, before they became the superpowered immortal beings that they are. That part was interesting, but overall, this story is kind of meh to me. I'm not excited about this book at all. I'm going to continue to pick it up to see what the conclusion is, and there are aspects of it that I enjoy. But overall, as a series, I'm not impressed. I like Jeffrey Thorne's version. It was like 12 issues a year or two ago. I did enjoy that, but the War Journal, it's just okay to me. I don't really have much to say about it, honestly.
Well, the artwork is spectacular. The
Arrow-
story, the story is slowing down.
Yep.
This, I will say this. I think in this particular issue, I agree with Mark. The story is slowing down, and we're getting a little bit of filler here and there. I think this is a series that probably could have been wrapped up in maybe 8 issues rather than the slated 12 that it's scheduled for. It definitely needed more than 5 issues, but I don't think it needed 12 to tell this particular story. This particular issue had a lot to do with giving the background on the origins of these light users, the Olgun, which ultimately became the predecessors to the Green Lanterns or other lanterns, other these users of this force, the light force. I don't know about this stuff because and Mark and I didn't really grow up really reading DC. So I don't know anything about the background that's being told here. This book was really an origin story for those DC fans that are familiar with the Green Lantern mythos and the cosmic nature of the DC universe. Because this really went into the origins of that. This was an origin story book. I think it would be significant, and it might even be a low grade key in that respect, and being an origin story for that aspect of the DC universe. But because I'm not familiar with it, I have no history, I have no background on it. It was just kind of boring to me
There's
because
nothing
I don't know
exciting
anything.
there's nothing exciting about this book. There's nothing to look forward to for me about this book. Comparing this series with the Blood Hunt series, I'm looking forward to Blood Hunt to see, okay, who has been turned into a vampire? How are they going to overturn that? Blah, blah, blah. With this book, it's, the only thing that I take from this book is that John Stewart, Green Lantern, or Green Lantern John Stewart, is akin to a god in that he created an autonomous, independent life who is
That was
there
probably the most important thing that happened.
who's there looking over his mother who is suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever. That was the key takeaway from this entire series. The rest of it is just bleh. It's just on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give this book a 5. There's nothing exciting about this book to me at all.
I will say the artwork is nothing short of spectacular. This
It's
artwork is
it's
phenomenal.
it's cool.
Um,
It's cool.
no, it's phenomenal. This artwork is like some Phil Jimenez type of artwork. Not quite. I won't say quite as Phil Jimenez, but it's pretty damn good. It's up there.
Okay, you know what? I'm looking at this page right here. I'll give you that. The artwork is really good. Okay. The story is detracting from how good the art is. I will give you that. Yeah, like this
I
old
will.
guy.
There's one page I wanted to share that I thought was kind of cool. Um, just showing the power level of Green Lantern. I love that he created an armor, his War Machine moment, where he created like a War Machine armor without all the outrageous guns. Um, he truly is powerful, and I love the fact they refer to him as the builder because John Stewart is an architect, right? It's part of his history, and so they refer to him as builder. His the way his mind works as an architect allows him to do really elaborate creations as a Green Lantern. And I love the fact that he's so powerful that he's able to create armor and guns for the people surrounding him. He truly is crazy powerful. Even though he's got this sort of ring that helps him regulate his power at this point, His power levels, someone who doesn't have to charge that ring with the lantern, he is self-powered because thank you, Jeffrey Thorne. Um,
He's made him into a god.
those are crazy because we
Green
also
Lantern
have,
is a god.
yeah, I mean, he also, we forget, not to be forgotten, he created an avatar of himself in his sister, who also has, powers and is watching over his mother. Um, that's yeah, he's I'm glad
That
Philip Kennedy Johnson didn't ignore Jeffrey Thorne's power up. They just sort of, because DC did what they did after that run and kind of ignored the split of the two John Stewarts or what have you. Um, I love how Philip Kennedy Johnson's taken that and running with it
and
and
that and
going
that's
some
what I
place.
said a moment ago is that how okay, so John Stewart is off in space doing his space night thing. Back here on planet Earth, his mother, who is suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, is left quote unquote alone. But John Stewart created an avatar of from his light powers that is there, who is in the image of his younger sister, who apparently died when she was a child. The mother, not remembering that the child dies, sees this creation as her actual daughter. So John created this individual or this entity who has its abilities to think independently of what John does out there in space. That is godlike powers, right? That goes beyond anything that any Green Lantern ever has been able to do. He created independent life. That is godlike power. So that's the only thing that I'm taking away from this book that he was able to do. The rest of it, the story, somebody just mentioned in the comments that it's convoluted. It is. I don't really care about this story. I'm ready for it to be wrapped up, to be quite frank. But
Yeah, it does need to get wrapped up. Jeffrey Thorne points out something. I had said that I wasn't familiar with this whole backstory that Philip Kennedy Johnson's doing with the origins of the Light Force users. He said he made them up. You don't need to know anything.
okay.
So now I
I,
feel less bad because I'm like, I don't understand what the hell's going on.
and
So it
I
really
don't
is kind of an execution thing. It might have been information overload to put in one issue because he kind of compacted a whole backstory universe on a few panels in one issue.
go to
That's
the
oh
second go to the second and third pages if you would. Now that's some good art. That's some good exposition. And these first 3 pages going back in time, I was interested in that. And quite frankly, I would have been interested to see more of that. The rest of the stuff that John is going through out in space, I don't really care about. I just don't. Can you put up those pages?
yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Like you got this guardian who looks kind of like Skeletor. Look down there at the bottom. That dude looks like Skeletor, and he was, the guardian of this mystic thing or whatever. And the Owens ancestors try to come and defeat him or whatever. This part was interesting. And to be quite frank, I would love to have this book or this issue to have delved more into that, other than 2 pages.
Yeah,
What
yeah. I mean,
what
it was
John
a
is
lot
going
to
through
give the
now?
reader with only a few panels. That
Yeah.
that almost deserves its own separate book.
Yes. 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 I,
And
I
so the
could have seen
reader
a
end up like,
yeah.
what the hell's going on? I went from the last issue, which has absolutely nothing to do with this. There's a
It,
big leap between the last issue and this one.
yeah. This isn't. I'm just gonna be honest. This isn't a great book. It's just not.
Well, this issue wasn't great. The series overall, it still
It's
stands to
not
be
great.
seen.
The series overall is not great.
I don't know if I'd agree with that because I think it started out really well. I just think it's dragging on longer than it should.
It's not a good book.
I disagree. All right, we did skip over one book that I just wanted to mention briefly. Um, Not for any particular reason, just for a few panels, and that is Fall of the House of X number 5 that came out.
That's
And
X.
those
That's X-Men. That comes at the end. That's X-Men.
after the
X-Men. It's X-Men.
book is
It comes
called
at the end.
Fall of the House of X.
X-Men. It comes at the end.
All right. I mean, your alphabet is a little off, but fine. All right.
No, in your collection, are you going to put it with X-Men or are you going to put it under Fall of House of X?
I'll put it under X-Men.
Exactly.
Totally agree about Green Lantern, War General. This book is straight trash. Wow, that's harsh. Anthony Davis still don't know how he created his
Right.
sister.
His power. I mean, he, under Jeffrey Thorne's run, he got a huge power up. He is a god. There is no other way to say it. And so he used that godlike ability to create this quote unquote sister to look over his mother while he's off in space.
Jeff says the builder comes from Mosaic. Okay, Green Lantern Mosaic. That series. Without the deafening shoulder Gatling guns. We better not make John Stewart too powerful, or the powers that be will disappear him like that. Well, they kind of did. I mean, after Jeffrey Thorne's run, they completely ignored what Jeff did, and they had that series where the Justice League was destroyed, and you see him flying around the Justice League. You're like, wait, how did he get from the end of Jeff's run to flying with the Justice League to their deaths without any explanation? And then, they got killed off, and it was kind of messy. Hey, Randy Watson, Sexual Chalks is in the house. I need to read War Journal again. Randy, this is an invitation to you, man. Hit us up. Would love to have you on the show. Marc hasn't met you. I'll talk to him about you, but love to have you on the show. Cool dude. Anthony Davis says information overload is the appropriate way to describe the writing. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. He's trying to pack a lot of stuff into these issues, and it's a bit overwhelming to the reader, and it drags the story down.
Anthony used the appropriate term, convoluted. Yeah.
If you read, Jeff says, if you read Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics, you'll have more context. Okay.
See, I don't read Action Comics. That's typically a Superman book, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Superman book. I don't read Action Comics. Randy says they need to do another Sojourner Mullen story. Man, let me tell you. I don't know what
you talking about. Hold on, you talking about Yellow Lantern?
I don't know how DC doesn't throw a bunch of money at N.K. Jemisin to do another Sojourner Mullen series. Such a great series. An Afrofuturism series too, I would dare say. Well written, well drawn, world building. That was a fantastic. Far Sector was a fantastic series. All right. So what's our next book?
Mace Windu, which dropped 2 weeks ago.
All right. That was I'm digging this series.
So overall, the series was cool, but the issue number 4 was really good. I really, really, really liked issue number 4. Basically, we all know Samuel L. Jackson played Mace Windu. He went to Morehouse College here in Atlanta, the college that I graduated from. But there's this chick who had a formula for some special type of fuel or whatever that she's trying to sell on the black market. The Jedi want her not to sell it to anybody.
Avita Cruz was basically a pirate smuggler.
Right. And so,
as they say in Star Wars, what's the S word? Geez, why is my Star Wars brain shutting down?
Okay, so while he's trying to think of whatever it is he's trying to think of, Mace Windu has been sent to try to make contact with this person to try to get the formula, blah blah blah. So people out there trying to get her to get it for themselves, et cetera, et cetera. And this last issue, Mace Windu, goes up against some cult-like individuals who, follow this one guy. And Mace fights them. It's got some pretty decent lightsaber battles in the book. But then when the big bad shows up, this dude right here, that was really cool because apparently,
Because he goes by the name of the Shroud.
right. So apparently, this dude may very well have had some Jedi training himself. And Mace does not
You're
defeat
skipping over a
him.
part. You're skipping over a part. When he's fighting the guy, Mace hits his staff, and he's like, "How is it that my lightsaber is not cutting through your thing?" Because remember, this group that's chasing after this metal or whatever that Azita Cruz is trying to haul off to hawk off to the highest bidder. It's all ancient stuff. And there's this group that's like an anti-technology group. We don't believe in technology. We want to get rid of technology in the universe. We're more into the mystical artifacts of the universe, which I don't know, it's a bit anachronistic. But Mace is like surprised. How is it that my lightsaber can't cut through your staff? And he's like, well, there's not. It shows that you don't know everything. You're relying on your technology too much. I wonder if the staff is actually made out of Beskar, which is the metal that the Mandalorians have, the
And that's
their adamantium, which is this is the only metal that lightsabers can't cut through.
right. Right. Mandalorians, if you've been paying any attention to Star Wars, or Boba Fett's cult, where, they lived on Mandalore and then they fought against Jedi, etc. And as Paul just said, that specific metal cannot be cut by lightsabers. And in fact, Ahsoka Tano acquired a Beskar staff that she defeated this chick from, and she got it from her. So that is a good indication that substance is made out of Beskar, and this particular dude is able to take on a master Jedi Knight with pretty much no problem. At the end of the book, Mace Windu drops an entire ship on him, like literally, he drops a ship on him, and the dude emerges from the rubble. So I was interested to see what's going to happen next with that character. The story overall was just okay, but for me, it got really good when that dude showed up at the end.
All right, so I'm a Star Wars head. And so I kind of look at the big picture when I approach all these Star Wars books. I'm always looking for these Easter eggs and nuggets that clue you in as to where the Star Wars universe is headed. And just follow me on this. About 10 years ago or so, probably more than that, when George Lucas released his Clone Wars television series, he did something that was unprecedented in Star Wars. He said, everything I do with this cartoon series, these animated series that I'm doing, is considered canon, right? And so he created all these television series, the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, etc. And all of those were canon. When Disney bought the Star Wars universe, Disney said, yeah, we're maintaining that canon thing on the cartoons, in which a lot of characters and a lot of concepts about the Star Wars universe were expanded upon, particularly in Star Wars Rebels, that talked about the origins of the Force. Why is all this significant? Because when Disney created its television series, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Mandalorian, these are also all canon. But Disney also took it a step further and said, look, we bought Marvel Comics. We're going to do Star Wars comics under Marvel. Everything that happens in the Star Wars comic books are also canon. So literally all of this stuff is tied together. It's not like it's tied together in a way that's more so than what you have in Marvel. Marvel, you have Marvel Comics and you've got the MCU. They're two separate things for now at the moment. I think ultimately they're going to be the same. But for the moment, they're still two separate things. For Star Wars, it's not two separate things. It's literally all tied together. They're very serious about it. If you go to Star Wars comics and you look at who the main editor is, it's a brother by the name of Simpson, Jess Simpson, something like that. His name is wow, it escapes me at the moment. Give me 1 second. Robert Simpson. He's a senior editor. What his real job is being the liaison between Star Wars, Lucasfilms, and Marvel to make sure they don't go off continuity. Now, here's the thing. Many of you may have seen the new trailer for the Acolyte series. The Acolyte series takes place in the past, like hundreds of years before the Battle of Yavin that you saw in episode 4, A New Hope, the original Star Wars film. It is a prequel beyond the prequels. It talks about how the Jedi first encountered the Sith. Okay? But moreover, it talks about the origins of the Force. And this is what makes this, I said, follow me, and this is all going to tie together. There's this one panel in this particular book in which this mysterious guy, the Shroud, a new character, first appearance in this book, by the way. So that makes this book a low-grade Star Wars key. They're talking about the origins of the Force, and the Shroud is going to Mace Windu, is like, what makes you think you're so sure about everything? He's like, the Force or whatever. But he says, but you don't know what it is, Mace Windu. None of you do. The lies you tell yourselves about an energy field that binds the galaxy together. And he goes, and so Mace Windu goes, and you know the truth? And he goes, yes. I looked deep into the heart of the Force. I stood at the edge of the abyss and surrendered myself to it. There is no light side. This is the point. There is no light side, no dark side. There is only power. Mark my words. This is the theme that you're going to be seeing in Star Wars in the foreseeable future. The whole High Republic is about defining what the Force is. They're even considering doing a series that is specifically geared towards exploring what the hell actually is the Force. We just know light side, dark side, Jedi, Sith. It's a lot more complicated than that. There's layers to it, and they're going to explore it in the future. And the fact that they're bringing it up in this comic book, I thought was really dope. So I had to nerd out for a moment and talk about that.
Yeah, my understanding is that, so along with Paul, one of my other boys, I don't know if he's watching right now or not, but one of my Morehouse and Alpha brothers, Rodney, he is a ginormous Star Wars nerd. And he has actually read a lot of the Star Wars novels.
The novel.
It was my understanding that at one point, the Star Wars novels were considered canon to the Star Wars mythos. However, when Disney
the current novels are. The High Republic novels are absolutely canon.
So when Disney bought the Star Wars property from George Lucas, the old novels were no longer canons, according to my boy.
For the most part,
yeah, right. And so going to the comic books, there are things that happen in the comic books that fall directly after a movie. So, for example, there is a book called Darth Vader. Darth Vader had a comic book. He has an ongoing comic book now. But there was a storyline that I want to say followed immediately after New Hope, which was the first Star Wars movie in our real world continuity. That the storyline was called Darth Vader Down. And let me tell you something. Darth Vader in Rogue One is probably on screen the best Darth Vader that we've ever seen. That 2-minute clip of him going into the ship at the end of Rogue One that led into Star Wars A New Hope. But in Darth Vader Down, Darth Vader takes on a whole squadron by himself of rebels. And that was by far the best iteration of Darth Vader that I've ever seen. There are a lot of Star Wars related comic books out there. On my tablet, I have one about Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn. It was really, really, really good. If you have the inclination and if you are a Star Wars nerd or geek, whatever you prefer to be identified as, pick up the Star Wars. It's probably more cost effective to buy the trade paperbacks and read that stuff or get it downloaded on your tablet. But those are some very extremely good series. I can't speak on the novels because I've not read any of the novels at all. There is one that I'm interested in seeing, the one reading, the one about Plagueis,
Yeah.
Darth Sidious's master. I'm interested in reading that, but I can't tell you or speak on any of the other novels that are out there. But I will say that the comic books tie directly into the movies, and a lot of them are very well done. I love Dr. Aphra. Love Dr. Aphra. See, I didn't like the animation of Rebels. I understand the story was pretty good, but I just, having come off of Clone Wars, I wasn't a fan of the Rebels artistic direction or style.
Regardless of the animation, the story in Rebels that had a lot of world building for the Star
Yeah,
Wars universe.
yeah.
A lot. And Jeff says you need to watch Vader versus Ahsoka.
Yeah, I saw
Absolutely.
that when they were in that special place or whatever. Yeah,
So
I did.
the space between
Yeah.
spaces
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
the Sith temple before
Yeah.
that.
But
Anyway,
on a scale of 1 to
sorry,
10
I had to
Mace
nerd out for it, everybody. I
yeah,
apologize.
but on a scale of 1 to 10 on Mace Windu, as a series, I'd probably give it about a 7, but I really enjoyed, issue number 4. I really enjoyed issue 4.
Yeah. Next book, Suicide Squad, Dream Team. Let me tell you something. This is a dope team. I don't know enough people are talking about this book. I don't know why not more people aren't talking about it. This is a dope series. And low key, there is a build up to this absolute power storyline that's going to be the crossover event for the DC universe this summer. This series is clearly the lead up to that. Amanda Waller has been over the last couple of years building towards this event. She's consolidating her power. The previous crossover events established Gamora as this island prison, supermax prison for superpowered individuals.
Hold
Just
on a
her
second.
power.
We're in DC. We're talking about a place, not a person. Gamora is a person over in Marvel. We're talking about a place in DC.
Oh, yeah. Gamora is actually originally from the Wildstorm comic book universe in Jim Lee's Wildstorm from Image Comics back in the 90s. It was basically, for all intents and purposes, if you're a Marvel head, it was Madripoor. Gamora is literally the same place as Madripoor was in Marvel Comics, except it was recognized as an actual nation, a rogue nation, a pirate nation, which was very advanced because it had all this illegal technology in it and a bunch of pirate type people. So that's her base of operations, where she's trying to establish a supermax prison, where her goal is to imprison all the superpowered individuals of the world that don't come to heal. That's her goal. And she's using this dream team, this Suicide Squad iteration that's led the field commanders, her nephew, Archie Waller, whose code name is Deadeye. What's interesting is I almost want to think Deadeye is kind of like the DC recognized that with Will Smith taking the role of Deadshot in the movies, people have this view that the leader of the Suicide Squad should be this black guy who wields a gun and has this big bullet crosshair thing on his face. So they kind of made this Deadeye as kind of like the
Somewhat of a retcon. Basically,
somewhat of a
in
record, correct?
in live action, they race swapped the character of Deadshot because Deadshot in the comics has an animation, obviously, and also has always been a white guy. But they cast Will Smith for his star power in the Suicide Squad movie, and so basically they've now created this new character who made his first appearance within the past 5-6 years or whatever.
It was
To
literally like last year.
right to be the comic book version of Will Smith's race swapped character in the Suicide Squad movie,
But with superpowers. With superpowers.
but with superpowers. He's got like
A
telepathy or something like that.
psychic ability.
Yeah, yeah.
Very kind of unspecific psychic ability.
And
Um,
and the reason why we're talking about this book, other than Archie or Deadeye, is that Amanda Waller is shaping up to be the so-called big bad of DC Comics. She makes her appearance in Suicide Squad and in this issue of Titans, which also dropped this week. You know, I've been saying now for several months that Amanda Waller is one of my top 10 favorite comic book characters, and she's not number 10. And the reason why, as I continuously say, is that she is a Black woman in America in a white man's world who has absolutely no superpowers whatsoever. She is a literal bureaucrat. But because of her desire to protect America specifically and regular humans, she does any and everything in her ability to convince, cajole, coerce anybody to reach her
hey,
goal.
Jeff, thank you for the $10 super chat, man. We'll catch you on the flip side, bro. Jeff, if you have an opportunity, free time, let's bring you on the show so you can talk about X-Force. You have some time. But with that super chat, we have something somewhere. Gosh darn it. Freaking Dr. Wizard and his freaking.
So yeah, so going back to Amanda Waller, I have the greatest deal of respect and admiration for that character because she's just a regular lady. The only thing that she has is a poli sci degree. There is nothing special or spectacular about her other than her desire to serve the country. And you may not necessarily agree with her methods, but her motives are absolutely pure. I know a lot of people don't like it, especially in the superhuman community in DC Comics, but she is without a doubt, without question, one of my favorite characters in comics because she will do any and everything to get what she wants. And one of the scenes that I remember from Titans, I know we're straying from Suicide Squad, but they can be read in conjunction with each other. But a couple of issues ago, Amanda Waller was sitting down with Trigon. Trigon is the DC equivalent of Dormammu. They are literal gods. They're demons. And Amanda Waller doesn't blink, she doesn't sweat, and she's sitting across this entity, this immortal, all-powerful entity, to try to get him to do her bidding. And she does not blink when she goes up against him. And I remember, in that
She's literally making a deal with the devil, and she's not doing it from position of inferiority.
she's making a deal with the devil, and then Peacemaker, aka John Cena, walks in on this deal in her office, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be back." But Amanda Waller is that chick, and I really wish people would understand how great a character Amanda Waller is.
So to that point, there's
Just one final thing. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Whenever I'm reading Amanda Waller, in my head, I hear CCH Pounder from the Justice League Unlimited storyline. She should have been given the opportunity to play her in live action, all due respect to Viola Davis, who is a phenomenal actress. But that's who Amanda Waller is to me and in my mind's ear. But go ahead.
So to Mark's point, there is in this particular issue, which really had more to do with the character Dreamer, more so than anything else. Dreamer knows that Amanda Waller is what she's up to. Her nephew Archie knows what she's up to. They're both on the same side, but Dreamer has kind of gone AWOL, and Amanda sends a Suicide Squad to bring her back because Dreamer's powers, the abilities to sort of control people through dreams, what have you, put up illusions, it's kind of a reality or altering power in many respects, is integral to her plan to take over the world and bring superpowered metas to heal. But there is one particular panel I thought was very important for a lot of the debate that happens around Amanda Waller and whether she is a good guy or a bad guy. So here's what she says. Despite what you may think, I don't actually want to hurt anybody. I just want to protect our country and this planet from harm.
Yep.
Same as I always have. You can feel however you want about me, but I would hope that you're all capable of looking at objective truths. And this is one of them. I'm the good guy. I mean, is she wrong? Is she any different than Nick Fury? I don't know.
Shout out to
Uh,
Chillmonger. Shout out to Chillmonger, who has his own channel, who refers to Amanda Waller as Chick Fury, and I think that's pretty funny, and I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, she's amoral. Um, I admire the person who has a goal, and their goal is not for selfish.
uh-oh. I seem to be gone. That's not good. Am I out or is Mark out? Mark is out. Can y'all still hear me or is that just Mark just gone? Somebody let me know in the chat if you can still hear me. Okay, so it was Mark that blinked out.
Yeah, somehow I don't know. Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yes, so I can hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but basically, long story short, what Amanda does is not for her own enrichment, but it's what she feels is for the betterment of Americans and regular individual people. So I understand why people would have issues with her, but I love the character. I absolutely love the character.
Okay, so I think are we on to the X-Men book now? I mean, did we go through all the letters?
Yeah. Yes, we are now on to the X book, but let's go to the
Are we
comments real quick.
alphabetically in order?
Yes.
All right, look, X-Men Fall of X #5 came out. I don't want to belabor the book. I think a lot of the book was actually kind of filler, but this is the end of the Krakoan era. Krakoan era had a lot of high points, a lot of weird points, but all in all, I kind of enjoyed the Krakoan era, particularly the beginning part that was done by Jonathan Hickman, which was brilliant.
House of X and Powers of X are two of the best comic book series ever.
Yeah, it's really up there. It's really up there.
Yeah.
Some of the best X-Men stories of all time.
Yeah.
There was one particular, the introduction of Storm. There's a couple scenes in here with Storm and Sync that I thought just deserve recognition. Storm comes into the scene looking all Stormalicious, wielding power left and right. Look at the power crackling about her. I love the way the electricity is.
Before you get into all that, let's set the scene. Basically, the House of X, Powers of X, the X-Men and mutants had created their own independent nation, so humans could just leave them alone, let them do their own thing. There's a company or an organization called Orcus who was against mutants. They had manipulated some drugs that the X-Men or the mutants had created in order to save humanity, but Orcus had did some tweaking to basically make it some type of gene bomb that at their command, anybody who had taken the Krakoan medicine could basically be killed. So they blackmailed Professor X to say, hey, this is what we can do unless you guys go away, blah, blah, blah. So the Orcus is the organizational equivalent of Israel. They're trying to destroy the mutants who are basically Palestine. That's what's going on here. And so we have this whole battle between the mutants who are in hiding, fighting against the powerful Orcus who has its hand in governments across the planet. And so now the mutants are fighting back. But unbeknownst to Orcus, they had tied themselves to some AI entities and they had their own agenda. And the AI agenda was to destroy all humanity combined. They don't distinguish between mutants and non-mutants. So their goal is to sit up here and destroy every non-AI that's out there. One of their main individuals is a character named Nimrod. Nimrod made his first appearance back in like X-Men number 180, somewhere back in the 80s and somewhere back in the 80s. It's between 78 and 180, somewhere in there. He made his first appearance. He's somewhat like Ultron in that even if you think that you've destroyed him, there's some code out there of him that will eventually come back. And in this book, even though it seems like Nimrod has been destroyed, he will probably make a comeback. And then when we see Storm, that's what we see her going up against is this AI creation, this AI robot, this Ultron Brainiac type creature known as Nimrod, who has several different bodies fighting different teams of X-Men across the planet. And then that's when Storm, who coming off the heels of resurrecting Magneto, is back in the fight to sit up here and try to rescue Mutant. Go ahead.
So we have a level up moment in this book. This whole week is replete with these level up moments of superheroes. And this particular moment was kind of cool. First of all, just on an artistic level, I love the way the lightning is drawn in here. It very much reminds me of Nicholas Draper Ivy's lightning that he drew in the Static Shadows of Dakota book recently. Storm creates lightning swords. Lightning swords. Now we know from Jerry Duggan's run and Al Ewing's runs that Storm is a blade wielder. She keeps knives all over her body. She loves to use knives. It's always been something since the Claremont era. You've always seen her wielding knives. Very adept at that. She came to Wakanda in Marauders 13 to steal their sword for their battle with swords. She's very big on using bladed weapons. But in this is the first time I've seen her use her powers to create her own sword out of lightning, much like how Miles Morales does now with his electrical abilities. But moreover, you have this scene where Sync comes in and he uses Storm's power. I don't remember, and you guys can let me know if you've seen this before. I don't remember ever seeing Sync use Storm's power. He uses a lot of X-Men's abilities. I don't recall him ever seeing Storm using Storm's power. I think this might be the first time I've seen him use his power, but I just thought this one little panel was kind of glorious where he's like, I've got your power, Storm, and I've caught that bolt that you sent. I've caught what you're doing. And the two of them together come together to wield the power at the same time, both creating these lightning bolt blades and are attacking Nimrod. I just thought this was a really dramatic moment.
And while the two of them are doing that elsewhere on the planet, Magneto, who has just been resurrected by Storm, because remember, during one of the House of X, Powers of X, whatever, Magneto basically died. Storm brought him back from the abyss, but Magneto is teamed up with Polaris, his daughter, and they're using their powers of magnetism to attack another version of Nimrod. So those four together have basically destroyed the Nimrods across the planet. And
the consistent thing that you've seen in the Krakoan era is the concept of the mutant, what's the term they use? Mutant circuit. That's where, and to explain, a mutant circuit is where different mutants will combine the use of their powers to create something more powerful. Certain mutant powers complement each other. And if you get just like a regular circuit, if you get the right combination of mutants, you can do really spectacular things. And that's what they did with these 4 individuals. Between Magneto and Polaris, they created a magnetic field around
One
Nimrod.
version of Polaris, one version of Nimrod. Yeah.
Right. And then they're creating this, and I forget there's a technical scientific term that they use. I forget what it's called. But then they said, hey, if you throw electricity into this magnetic field, it powers it up even further and basically, long story short, overpowers Nimrod, which is in essence a big thing of electricity. He's basically electricity on the inside.
Well,
And they overpower him and basically destroy him. And it goes, because of the nature of the science of it, it destroys all versions of Nimrod in all the different places.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That
It was
was
pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
I love the Krakoan era. Professor X is now a villain because he was willing to do any and everything, as well as teaming up with his enemies to ensure the survival of the mutant. So look at it this way. If you knew that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had made an agreement with the KKK for the survival of all Black folks, and the KKK was trying to take over America, how would you feel or think about Dr. Martin Luther King? So that's kind of the equivalent of what you have there. This was a
Yeah.
good book. It encompassed several different titles. You had X-Men Forever, you had Fall of the House of X. It was just, there was a lot going on. It probably could have been pared down to a couple more books or whatever. But overall, it was a really interesting and good storyline. I did enjoy it. Yeah.
All right. So that ends our comic book portion.
Which was basically 2 weeks.
2 weeks of comics, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
what are
we'll
some
take
of
a
the
quick commercial break. When we come
comments
back,
in the
we'll get into a couple of things that Mark wants to talk about.
What are some of the comments in the chat, real quick?
But we got through all the comments.
Dear Mr. Billy Graham, I know this letter is late, but you know what they say, better late than never. And I'm writing to you because I know you'll never read this or hear this. It's a measure of therapy for me, I guess. Wondering how you never get mentioned when you are really only one of the few worth mentioning. After all, I don't think Sam and Dave had you in mind, but without question, you are a soul man. How else can you explain how a man can draw tears so well if he never shed any tears of his own? Yes, and I hear music, especially drums, when I see jungle action panels. And when I see Luke Cage panels, I hear the jukebox blaring out horns in the after hours joint. I guess I'm trying to say, Mr. Graham, that I dig your style, and you deserve to be celebrated like the heroes you drew. And like I said, you won't see or hear this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Thank you, Mr. Billy Graham. You are a Black history legend. Respectfully, the Black Comic Lords. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, peace.
What's good, comic fam? I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Concrete Comics, and I'm also pretty sure you guys are familiar with Freestyle Comics. Well, what if I told you they were partnering together and giving you guys an amazing promo code? So listen, here's the deal. You go to any one of these websites, you're gonna save 20% off by using this promo code. Now, if you spend more than $50, you're gonna get free shipping. You can't beat this. And when I talk to you about industry standard or better storylines and art, I mean, you're really not beating Freestyle Comics. You're definitely not beating Concrete Comics. Listen, this is not a sponsorship. I've literally read all of these books and they're fire. So stop crying and start buying. Concrete Comics, Freestyle Comics, joining forces. Make sure you use this promo code. You're gonna get 20% off. You spend more than $50, you're gonna get free shipping. We out.
Shout out to the Black Comic Lords for having me on the show, and also for being true believers in every aspect of comic books and nerd culture.
I'm Eve Ewing, and this is the Black Comic Lords.
Hello, this is Larry Fuller, the creator of Evan, with a shout out to the fine folks at Black Comic Lords. Keep up the good work.
Hey, y'all know it's me. This is OMG, and this is Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords.
Yo, Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords with your boy Lonzo Starr. Check in.
You're here with the Black Comic Lords.
You're here with the Black Comic Lords. Stay demented.
I am Professor John Jennings, and I'm a Black Comics Lord.
Black Comic Lords for life. Let's go. BCL for life, baby.
Black Comic Lords.
Black Comic Lords. Follow.
Subscribe now. Yeah.
We need to get Brian Hawkins back on. I haven't talked to him in quite some time.
Oh, he's down. I just messaged him last week, so he's waiting for us to arrange for him to come through because I don't know if you followed, he's kicked out a lot of books lately.
He's a true creative. There's a book that he is the editor on, which is Nottingham, which is about, Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham book, but he's one of the editors on. So that's the only thing that I'm getting. I get the impression that we're not getting any more Black Cotton, which is unfortunate.
That's not true. We did. Did you join his Kickstarter?
No, I don't know about that.
Yeah, the rest of the new Black Cotton already dropped.
Oh, I wasn't in the comic book store, so I didn't know. Okay.
It was a Kickstarter. I don't think it was in the stores.
Right. Okay. I have to look at that. So, what books are coming up? I know you wanted to talk about.
I thought you wanted to talk about the guy. Heavy D.
We'll get to that, but we always talk about after the book.
Okay. All right. Fair. All right. So we have what I promised we're going to talk about is this. Black Panther Blood Hunt coming out next week. Now, we had some preview images that just got released.
All right,
just got released.
I don't want to hear any of this because
I'm not. Then mute yourself or whatever you want to do. Spoiler alert: Black Panther's in the Jalia. I should not have come here. So he's in the Jalia. He's already been bitten by a vampire. He's got this vampire demon thing in him. Right? And the entities of the Jalia, his ancestors, are not happy that he brought what they viewed as a taint of evil into his sacred place. Let's pull this up here. It says bloodlust and possession have resulted in faulty decisions. Undead flesh directing the spirit. So that, spirits of the Dajjal are not happy. I mean, this is supposed to be the avatar of Bast, and he's bringing this dirty demon blood stuff going through his veins into the Jalia. And they go, the audacity. You carry the spirit of the demon here to this place? To defile the dominion of Bast is a trespass not easily forgiven. You have sullied her line. A debt must be paid. Foreshadowing. A debt must be paid. That's heavy foreshadowing. At some point, we're going to figure out what is the debt T'Challa's going to have to pay for sullying the land of Bast by bringing the vampiric spirit into that place. So he goes, I have come seeking help, aid, a way to protect the people of Wakanda, to serve as you have served. They're not really hearing it. They're not really feeling that storyline. They go, you declare yourself a champion of Bast, a protector of Wakanda. You have brought only death. Listen to me carefully, whelp. For when the demon comes to question his thrall, and he will seek you out, he must know this above all else. Wakanda will never fall again. When did Wakanda fall? It fell under the watch of who? T'Challa. Under the watch of T'Challa. He was alive at the time. You could say that it fell when Namor attacked with the wave, when he was possessed by the Phoenix Spirit. You could also argue that it fell when Thanos invaded under the watch of Shuri, but he was still King of the Dead at that time. And he was specifically the Avatar Acolyte of Bast at that time. Wakanda will never fall again. It is known, my brothers. We are slave to neither man nor God. We are slave to neither man nor God. What God are they referencing? I'm kind of curious about that. And he's in the Temple of Bast. I wake up alone, or rather, I carry the vampire's curse as my sole companion, marked by the Daywalker blade, to scurry through alleyways as an unwelcome creature of the night. Blade's gift. And he throws the potion made from the heart-shaped herb to the side, which allowed him to commune with the Jalia. So this is all written by Cheryl Lynn Eaton. I'm looking forward to seeing what she's got cooking. This artwork that we saw here is pretty good too. But this is our foreshadow of what we can expect in this Black Panther Blood Hunt series, and I'm 100% here for it. Frustrated Fan Show says, I've never been this late. Dude, come on. After 11? Like 2 hours in?
Late, yeah.
That's late even for you. All right. One above all. So I just wanted to talk about that show, that little preview. I'm very excited for the series that drops next week. I hope you guys pre-ordered the book. Pre-ordering these books are tremendously important. If you want to see these characters keep going, if you want to see books like this come out in the future, if you want to support the Black creators that make them, you've got to pre-order the book. Don't just show up at the LCS and say, I bought the book, and post it up on social media. I bought the book today. You got to pre-order the books for it to matter.
Speaking of that, pre-order X-Force, which is being written by Jeffrey Thorne, coming up.
Yeah.
And also, what is it? The Excellent X-Men, the Exceptional X-Men by Dr. Eve Ewing. So that needs to go on your pre-order list as well, which is due to drop summer of 2024. So I don't know if that means June, July, or whatever. But specifically the Exceptional X-Men and X-Force, which will be written by 2 Black creatives. So definitely support them. You just went on about the Blood Hunt Black Panther coming up in the fall. I want to say, I guess in August, will be Black Panther versus Predator, or Predator versus Black Panther.
Right.
in comics, there have been several crossover stories that don't necessarily seem to go together, but they put them together in comic book form. Black Panther versus Predator, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Predator versus Black Panther. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know either of
It's
these
being written by
creators.
Benjamin Percy, who is writing the Wolverine book. He was co-writing it, the most recent story, the Sabretooth Wars, with Victor Laval. And the art is by Chris Allen, whose name you'll recognize from the Eve Ewing run of Black Panther.
Oh, okay.
That same artist.
Gotcha. So I am looking forward to that. Make sure that you pre-order. That's a cool look right there. Make sure
Look at
that
this.
you
Look at this. Look at these pictures. This covers by Ken Lashley. And here's some interior art. So many pop-ups. Jeez Louise. Here's some interior art.
So is it going to be black and white?
No. It's just it's preview art. It's not going to be a black and white book. It's preview art.
Okay.
Hasn't been colored yet.
So those are two of the books
But
that are.
imagine the Predators coming to Wakanda to get some vibranium.
If you have not seen Prey, which is on
There
Hulu.
was a preview of Predator versus book against Wolverine.
Okay, so look, as I was saying just now,
I actually have not watched that series yet.
if you have not seen Prey on Hulu, and if you like the Predator franchise, I highly recommend the Prey movie on Hulu. It is phenomenal. It is one of the better Predator movies. I really encourage you guys to watch that. It dropped like last year, maybe in 2022. But it was extremely well done. Highly recommend.
Frustrated says, Paul, how do you feel that now that you know that Rook is not a black cat? I didn't know. Spoiler alert, frustrated. Oh, so it was revealed that he's not black. I just speculated and said he might be black because they're being so secretive about what he looks like. So usually in the past, that's usually been evident that the person's black, but he's not black apparently. That's disappointing. I'm glad I didn't buy pre-order a bunch of his books. Wait, do you see it says 20th Century Fox in the top corner? What's he talking about? Maybe in the Predator book?
Probably.
Leadkill on the cover art and Chris Allen interior art. Looking forward to it. Absolutely. Does anyone know where Naomi is currently in the comics of DC? She has disappeared. We have literally not seen Naomi since Justice League 75.
About 2 years ago.
Justice League 75 was the last issue.
Yep.
Yeah, you spoiled that for me, dude. Thank you for that. You could have simply said, "Hey, Paul, did you see the race revealed of Rook in the latest issue?" But no, you ruined that for me. So thanks. iManifesto says Sully. What does that mean?
I don't know if that's reference to. All right, so what else is coming up? What other books are coming up besides
Well,
Blood?
let's go to the books of next week. Give me 1 second. My pull list. There we go. Excuse me for a sec. Black Comic Lords pull list. This is this week. Let's see what comes out next week. As we already said, Black Panther Blood Hunt #1's coming out. We already talked about it. Antagonist 3 and 4. Mark, are you getting this series? Mark, are you? Oh, he's gone. Shit, he's gone again. It disappeared. Anyway, Antagonist 3 and 4. I highly recommend this book. We talk about all the time the fact that there's no black super families, there's no black super love in mainstream comics. Well, you know what? It's an independent comics. More and more, the answer is becoming Black indies for the things that we crave, the things that we're looking for, the things that we complain on that the big two don't have. They're right there in Black indie comics. And Godhood is doing God's work. So please support these Black indie titles. What else we have coming out? There's some cool covers for this Black Panther Blood Hunt book, by the way. I kind of am really digging, other than the first cover, this one with Black Panther holding a comic book. It's kind of meta to see him holding an ultimate. Understand, Black Panther, which is in the 616 universe, this is 616 Black Panther, is holding an ultimate Black Panther comics book. If that is not a meta moment, I don't know what is. That's kind of dope. That's kind of dope. I love this image. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Let's go back here. There's an all red cover, blank variant. You want to get this so you can take it to a con and have one of your favorite artists draw Black Panther on that cover. Here's a cool one with Black Panther and his now nemesis Blade. So that's a dope one. Who did this cover? Davigo cover.
The Blood Hunt storyline is a very good one.
Oh, you're back.
Cannot say enough positive things about Blood Hunt. So definitely recommend.
There's a second printing coming out next week for this Edge of Spider-Verse Star Spider, which is a Black character. Think of it as kind of a Miles Morales 2099 type storyline, but with a Black female spider person, named Star Spider. So this is the second print of this book being released, in case you didn't get it the first time around. We also have the Edge of Spider-Verse #4. This is the first appearance of the Black Jessica Drew from the Edge of Spider-Verse, the Miles Morales Edge of Spider-Verse movie. The race-swapped Jessica Drew multiverse version. And she doesn't look like she's pregnant here. I know Marc probably likes this cover because it's got her with the poom poom out. But there's a couple other covers here. Pete Woods homage. You got the whole crew on here. Specifically, you've got at least 3 Black Spider people in this cover. You got Miles, you got Hobie, and you got this Black Jessica Drew. So that's kind of cool. I don't know who this little dude is. I guess that must be the cat version. I don't know what this is. This might be a completely new character. It looks like a cat version of Miles. So I'm kind of curious about that one. There's also this Spider-Verse version. It looks like it came out the movie. Not really feeling that cover. It's a little too busy. But this one, the Scott Forbes version, this is a dope cover. This is a beautiful cover. I must admit, this is a nice looking cover. Kind of feeling that. Artist, colorist, Marcus Williams. Wait, Marcus Williams is the artist of the book? Are you serious? Yeah. Marcus Williams is the artist on this book. Okay, so now this is a definite purchase.
What would people know him from?
Tuskegee Airs is the most notable thing he's done, in my opinion. Next week we also have Philadelphia 35. Look, if you're collecting Philadelphia, you got to have this issue. This is the crossover we've been leading up to. We're bringing together Spawn, Savage Dragon, and Blackula. And if you're going by the cover, Nita Hawes, all in the same damn issue. And it happens in this issue, issue number 35. There's a few different covers for this one. There's this one Savage Dragon as well. My money is on the Nita Hawes one. I like this Nita Hawes one with Blackula on it.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how he was introduced, was through Nita Hawes into this universe. So 100% in here for it. I'm really looking forward to reading that book. What else we got coming out? King Spawn 34 for all you Spawn fans. Midnight Suns, Blood Hunt, #1. Written by our boy Brian Edward Hill, who is the writer on Ultimate Black Panther and the former writer of Blade. This is his new series, Midnight Suns. Art by Jermaine Peralta. You'll recall him from the he did the artwork on the Black Panther run by Who Shall Not Be Named. Even though that run was terrible, his artwork was actually pretty good. That first cover, Ken Lashley, GOAT. Love that. You've got the blank variant that you want to buy for cons to have your favorite artists. This is a Dave Watcher variant with Blade on the cover.
That's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. It reminds me of the opening scene of the Blade movie, where he's being he's in the club with the blood coming from the ceiling, raining down. It reminds me of that. It's interesting. Who's this black woman right here?
No idea.
I think it's a character that was introduced. I might be on a stretch here. I think she's a mystical character that's actually from Wakanda that was in these. What series was that? I'm drawing a blank on it. It was a Spider-Man series. But I think she might be a Wakandan mystical person. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to get Brian Edward Hill to come back on the show, on the channel, to talk about this book. I messaged him recently. So I'll let you guys know if he responds. Final issue of Night Thrasher. The series has been
ass.
It's been disappointing as hell.
It's not a good series. There's no reason to buy it.
I really think this is Luke Cage.
But that's the way they drew Rage in this series. So it very well could be.
You literally can't tell the difference between him and Luke Cage.
Right.
It's just
right. It's not a good book. There's nothing good about this book.
Yeah.
I'm it because I have 1 through 3 and I have to have all of them, but it's not a good book at all. If you've missed out on Night Thrasher, there's no need for you to go out and get it now. I mean, obviously, if you've picked up 1 through 3, you might as well buy one more. But if you don't have it, there's no logical, rational reason to get this book. It's just not good.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Space Negro, The Last Negro by First Comics. Now, look, I get it. I get it. This reminds many of you who were alive in the 90s of Homeboys in Outer Space, the same concept. But from what I hear, this is actually not a bad series. I haven't read it yet. I recently purchased the first issue. I haven't read it yet. I'll let you know. But I heard this is actually not a bad series. It's a comedy book. I'll reserve judgment. The name gives me a certain impression of what the book's about, and I'm not interested, but I've heard it's not good, so I at least bought the first issue to check it out. So at least I can be objective. So
you know what? So that reminds me of the series Blackish. When Blackish first dropped the series on ABC, I didn't watch it the first season because I was put off by the name of it. But then once I actually started watching it, Blackish is the equivalent of the Cosby Show for the 21st century.
100%.
Very extremely
100%.
good series. But the name of it turned me off. So I can understand how Space Negro, the Last Negro, could turn one off from attempting to read it or whatever, even though the story itself may very well be good.
I had a lot of people that refused to watch Blackish because of the name.
Yeah. So
let me get some of these comments here before I move on to the next book. Frustrated said, finally, those books are coming out. I think he's probably referring to Antagonist. Will the Antagonist be LCS because I didn't get anything after 1? Supposedly so. This list that I'm showing you are books that are supposed to be released at the LCS. So I would recommend if these indie books can be hit or miss at the LCS if they haven't pre-ordered them. If you haven't pre-ordered it at your LCS, I would highly suggest you go online and go to the LCS that delivers and order it from there, or call your LCS tomorrow and make sure that they reserve any copies they have extra for you. I got the red cover for Jessica Drew. Absolutely. That's a dope cover. I think I ordered that same one myself. The only Blood Hunt that I'll be getting is the Dracula one with Blade's daughter. Then you're missing out, honestly, Louisiana Kid.
You got to get the main series, and you're probably going to be missing out if you don't get the Black Panther. But the main series is very good. It's very, very good.
Seriously, Mark and I are hardcore against crossovers for the most part because they're money grabs. But this crossover series is actually damn good.
Right.
Actually damn good.
And I've mentioned this in this space before, but back in the old days.
Wait, did you change shirts?
Back in the old days, cross storylines were very few and far between. You start off with the 1984 Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, and then you had either the Fall of the Mutants or the Inferno, and they came in Marvel specifically. They were few and far between. But over the past 15 years, you get a cross-issue storyline every year. And as I said previously, I rarely, if ever, get them. The Noel storyline, I didn't get any of that. I didn't care. I got the Jeffrey Thorne, Black Panther, and that was it. This storyline, the Blood Hunt storyline, is very good. I have been getting most of the tie-ins. Highly recommend. If you do not get it, you are probably going to be missing out because it is a good storyline.
Not probably, you absolutely will be missing out. This is a damn good story. Derek says Marcus Williams also is writing and drawing I Lie Popeye. That book was released at the Free Comic Book Day and is, have to buy it on eBay. Marcus also did the Static Shadows of Dakota issue number 2. Frustrated said Marcus did the cover. Marcus Williams does a lot of cover work. He does a lot of cover work. He even did cover for which one was it? Oh, I don't have that particular one. He did a cover work for Little Rock Files by Greg Burnham. It looks like a Sin City cover. I thought Frank Miller drew it. Jay says I came on late, y'all. But Blade number 10 may make a lot of sense how it went and ended. I'm just saying. Yeah, I mean, I think the end of the Blade series is really kind of what leads us to what we're going through in Blood Hunt right now. It just hasn't been explained yet.
The end of the Blade series was very anticlimactic when it dropped. I talked about that. I was disappointed in the ending, although I enjoyed the series. But the events of the Blade storyline ties clearly directly into the Blood Hunt series. You have to read those two in conjunction with each other, I feel.
All right, let's go into the rest of the books for next week. We said this Space Negro book. It's hard for me to say that with a straight face. We got Cody Ziegler, Spider-Punk, Arms Race. Mark, I know you're not buying this because you're not into punk culture.
It's not that I'm not into punk culture, but I did not I bought issue 1, was not impressed at all.
Of this particular run or the previous run?
This run.
This run. All right. Well, shout out to Cody Ziegler. Love that the brother's getting a lot of work at Marvel. He's also doing Deadpool currently, as well as Miles Morales. And there was one final. We've got Star Wars: The High Republic. I keep pointing this out to y'all every week. The High Republic's got mad melanation with lots of black characters in it. And again, these books are all canon in the Star Wars universe.
One thing
I
that
won't
Paul,
even go into.
one
Say
thing
again?
that I said, one thing that I think Paul brought to my attention was A Vicious Circle is supposed to drop in August, and I know we're not there yet, but I just want to put this on people's radar. We've had issues 1 and 2 drop last year, and they come far in between each other. Like issue 1 dropped maybe in May, issue 2 dropped in August or whatever it was. But supposedly issue 3, a year later, is coming out this upcoming August. I'm telling you right now, if you are not reading A Vicious Circle, you are missing out. Issue 2, I've said this here before. Issue 2 of A Vicious Circle is probably the single best issue of any comic book I've ever read ever. From the art and the story, just absolutely spectacular. So I would encourage you to pick up A Vicious Circle 1 and 2. Put A Vicious Circle number 3 on your pull list for when it drops.
You can definitely get 1 and 2 in the back bins of your LCS. Star Wars High Republic Adventures, Saber for Hire, number 2, Ty Yorick, another black character in the Star Wars universe. High Republic is mad melanated. And all canon. And finally, Wolverine 50. I think this is the final issue of this Sabretooth War. That's co-written by our boy Victor Laval from Eve and the Destroyer series, and from Exiles Sabretooth series. He's done a lot of work. He's a really great writer. And this is the final issue. So this will probably be the final. I stopped collecting Wolverine a while ago, but I started collecting it just for this run because it's been an excellent Wolverine run. So those are upcoming reads. Marc mentioned the upcoming 3rd issue. Let me pull this up. Of A Vicious Circle. He's not exaggerating when he says this is some of the finest artwork you've ever seen in a comic book. Like, ever.
Yeah. So that's
Lee
issue 3.
Bermejo's art is nothing short of spectacular.
The protagonist is a black dude who's basically traveling through time, fighting this one dude, and they are tied together on this time hopping journey. It's very difficult to explain, other than the fact that it is engaging. The story is engaging. It's a magazine-sized comic. The art in issue 2 specifically, I cannot overemphasize this enough on how good issue number 2 was to me. So I don't want to overhype it because you might get it and like, oh my God, this was just okay or whatever. But I love this series. I'm really looking forward to it. Issue 2 dropped back last year, so it's a year, probably like 12 months between issues 2 and 3. Very, very good book.
I think this might be the final issue too.
Yeah, well,
Part 3
all I
delivers
say
all the
is,
answers to all of your questions. Everything must end.
yeah.
So I
So
think this is the final. Black Comic Lords has already commented. Yes, you replied as well. Yeah, we're all excited about this book.
yeah, so that's it. All right, so that should be it for the books. The next subject, the next segment should be what you're watching.
What are we watching? I have no idea. Have I don't even know if I had time to watch
Are you gonna do?
television.
Hold on, are you gonna do the graphic
Yeah,
first?
I can find it. You put me on blast in front of our guests. Our next segment is What You Watch.
So last
Tell you
week, well,
me
2 weeks
personally,
ago,
I have not watched much television this week, but what I have been watching sporadically. Mark and I have mentioned how much we love the television series Battlestar Galactica, the original one, but also the reboot that was done 20 years ago. Can you believe that? The reboot was done 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
I still can't wrap my brain around it. I can't believe it's been 20 years since that reboot started. Anyway, it is now released on Prime, I mean Amazon Prime. And so I just randomly start watching episodes, not in any order whatsoever. I just pick an episode and just pick it and just watch it. And it's kind of cool to watch it that way because you see that every episode just on itself without watching it, without having it tied to anything else. How brilliantly written and well acted and the special effects, visual effects were on this series. It was it was at the time 20 years ago. It was clearly the best show on television. Literally the best show on television at the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go that far, but
I definitely
um,
would go.
as far as what you're watching, 2 weeks ago now at this point, the finale of X-Men 97 dropped. X-Men
Oh,
97 was a 10-issue series that followed up the X-Men series of the 90s that had 4 seasons, maybe 5 seasons. So this is a continuation of that. The penultimate episode had a lot of cameos in it. Basically, you have the X-Men going up against Bastion, uh, who is an AI type creature who is in the same vein as Nimrod, who is trying to destroy all mutants. As I said before, about 3 weeks ago at this point, when I said that Magneto was right, Paul and I were having a discussion, and Paul disagreed with my take that Magneto was right because, he felt that it was a local incident of the Sentinels trying to attack the X-Men. But in subsequent episodes, we saw that this was a worldwide event where the Sentinels all across the planet were trying to take out X gene positive individuals. So, in order to stop that, Magneto went up to the North Pole, whatever, and basically launched an EMP that destroyed all electricity. So, in the current last episode that you had last week, basically, Professor X leads a team to try to convince Magneto to undo what he did, which is absolutely stupid, in my opinion. I stand with Magneto to this very day. Magneto was right. Magneto was trying to save his species from extermination. Nobody else on the planet was trying to do that. But Professor X is the equivalent of what we would refer to as a coon. He loves humanity more than he loves his own people because he will do any and everything to so-called maintain the peace instead of prioritizing the safety of his people. So that's why I will stand with Magneto. Even though it may adversely affect me and mine, I understand why he did what he did. The episode had a lot of cameos, be it Morph transforming into people or just other characters who made appearances. You had Cloak and Dagger. You had Morph turning into Reed Richards. You had Daredevil made an appearance. One of the big things that people were talking about on social media was the fact that you had the Black Panther. Now, when you showed Wakanda and you showed the Sentinels in Wakanda, you have the Black Panther in his uniform surrounded by the Dora Milaje. Then they go off to fight. The issue was after their battle had concluded, the Black Panther that we saw was not T'Challa, but it was T'Chaka. And that's incongruous to the whole animation storyline because understand, back in the 90s, you had several Marvel shows that were tied into each other. Obviously, you had the X-Men series. You also had Spider-Man. You had the Fantastic Four. You had Silver Surfer. You had Hulk. That's 5 and Iron Man. That 6 ongoing animated series back in the 1990s. There was not necessarily a connected animated universe, but they were in fact connected. What's disconcerting about having T'Chaka make an appearance is that in the Fantastic Four, the Black Panther made his appearance attacking the FF, but it was T'Challa. And then T'Challa tells his history and his background in that his father had been killed. So all of that to say, the Black Panther this time period in X-Men 97 should very well have been T'Challa, not T'Chaka, who would have been killed when T'Challa was a young child. Somebody on the Twitters hit up Bo DeMayo about this very issue, and he was basically, his response was something to the effect of, it wasn't
I
my
can't talk about
decision, or I can't talk about it. It was something beyond my control. So a lot of us who are in
Hold on one second. Hold on. Let me pause you for just 1 second. There was an interview with the director of that particular episode. Something Castellora, I can't pronounce his last name, Castellorena, and he's being interviewed, and he's the director. And they asked him specifically, "What's up with the decision about making T'Chaka in that episode rather than T'Challa, given that it was already indicated early on in the series by one of the showrunners that this show takes place in the same universe as the other 90s animated features, which would include Fantastic Four, etc." And in the anime, specifically mentioning Fantastic Four, in which T'Challa showed up. So that director said, "Well, look, I can't really speak to that either, because that decision was made behind closed doors with Bo DeMayo and these other executives." Bo DeMayo says, I can't really talk about it. I wasn't really, that wasn't really my call, something to that effect. So what does this lead us to understand? Bo DeMayo is in a meeting with some executives about the show, specifically on the decision as to who's going to show up in this episode, T'Chaka or T'Challa. They made a big deal of pointing out that it was T'Chaka, having Steve Rogers say, "King T'Chaka," like very loudly, specifically showing, and he has the gray hair and what have you. And they try to come up with some retconny, well, this could be a multiversal thing. No, because your previous guy, before this episode aired, said this is not a multiversal thing. It's in the same universe as the other 90 shows. And T'Challa was part of those 90 shows, specifically. Which means that age-wise, T'Chaka shouldn't be around, because T'Chaka should be dead. So what does this mean?
Well, hold on.
There has been a huge backlash against the recast T'Challa movement, right? People said, "You guys are crazy. You're just bitter. You're not honoring Chadwick Boseman, et cetera, et cetera." As I've been saying for over 2 years now on this channel, in order for Marvel to save face and be consistent with what they have done, which is the decision to not recast T'Challa, given that the MCU is what leads what we call Marvel and not the comics anymore. The comics are no longer the source material for the MCU. The comics are now the promotional material for the MCU. Given that we know that now, okay? Marvel would have to double down by making consistent in the comics and other materials what they've declared with their decision not to recast T'Challa.
At the end of
What makes this so insidious for this particular episode is that we thought it would just be with regard to the comics, is what I was saying. That they're going to have to make it consistent. They're going to have to sideline, at the very least, sideline T'Challa, which is evident by the fact of the "He Shall Not Be Named" run, how he was trashed, etc.
Here's the thing, right?
One final thing. Let me finish, please. I know you want. I'll give you your chance, but here's the thing. The fact that there was a mandate, clearly, that T'Challa not be used in an episode of a cartoon, an animated series that has nothing to do with the MCU, shows that Marvel's decision goes far beyond simply recasting T'Challa for the MCU. It is evidence that there is a mandate or some type of agenda with regard to not having Black Panther in its properties for whatever reason.
Outside of print media, there does seem to piggyback off what he's saying. Outside of print media, and by that I mean the comic books, there seems to be a concerted effort to erase the character of T'Challa. When it came to the unnecessary murder of T'Challa in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which should never have happened, Nate Moore should be fired. Hold on in the comments so I can read them as well. It should never have happened in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. You show I'm not a gamer, I don't know anything about gaming, but apparently it's not automatic that T'Challa is going to be a playable character in upcoming games. But in this cartoon specifically, it had already been established that T'Challa was the king of Wakanda and the Black Panther. T'Chaka, his father, in this animated universe, had already been killed when T'Challa was a young child or, a preteen. And so to go back and somewhat retcon that, where it's T'Chaka and not T'Challa, seems to lead credence to those individuals who think that there is this conspiracy to erase the character of T'Challa outside of print media because of the death of Chadwick Boseman. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in any way, shape, or form, right? But seeing how this was handled, and again, understanding that T'Challa had already been established in the animated Marvel universe as the Black Panther, to subsequently erase him leads credence to that conspiracy theory that the character is going to be erased outside of print media. And it's very, very disappointing because that did not have to be done. I don't understand why it was done, and it should not have been. One of the final things that I want to touch on in regards to that, there's an individual on the Twitters. I don't know if you guys are on Twitter or not, but there's an individual on Twitter whose name is Up to Task. He has an extremely large following on Twitter. And by that, I mean 15,000 plus followers. Used to follow him back in the day. He talks about comic books and stuff a lot. He was having a conversation with somebody in reference to T'Challa versus T'Chaka or whatever. And it has been well established across all mediums that when T'Challa's father died, T'Challa was a kid. I mean, that's pretty well established, right? He was not an adult. He was not a grown up outside of the MCU. And Paul, if you check your DMs real quick, you'll see the conversation that was being had. Yeah. So basically, this Up to Task individual was having a conversation with somebody, was basically saying, look, you're wrong, you're a moron, T'Challa was an adult. Well, this was 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when I saw that tweet. And so I immediately went to the YouTubes and pulled up the Black Panther stop motion cartoon that was based on the Hutland run. And it is well established that T'Challa was a kid when his father died. And so why this person has this opinion is beyond me. If you go to the next picture, you'll see that this is pulled, if I'm not mistaken, because I didn't go into the crates and pull up the Hutland Run. But if I'm not mistaken, this comes directly from the Hutland Run, where T'Challa was a child, and not only was he a child, but he was the second child of T'Chaka. He wasn't even meant to be king. He was the spare, but his older brother was murdered along with their father, T'Chaka. And then obviously when you point that out to this individual, they block you or whatever. But all that to be said, there's a lot of hinky stuff going on with this character across different platforms that I just don't like. But yeah, but going back to X-Men 97, it was an extremely good series. I wish it would have been longer than 10 episodes. I wish Bo DeMayo was still the head writer or whatever he was to the program, because it's clear that he is not only a fan of the source material, but he respects it, because a lot of the stuff that we see came directly from the books. And he was a great, great showrunner for this. And then my understanding is that season 2 is based on an outline or platform or outline that Bo DeMayo created. So hopefully season 2 will be just as good.
Let's go to some of these comments. Frustrated says, I think the reason they used T'Chaka was because they haven't recasted T'Challa and wants to use the new actor's voice for the
I
animated
don't
series.
agree with that. That doesn't make sense. I mean, I understand. Listen, Frustrated, I understand what you're saying, and in some way, it may seem logical, but no, the two don't have to be synonymous. So no, I disagree with that.
Cornelius says they've banned T'Challa.
It damn near
That-
seems like.
It would certainly seem like it. Why the hate for T'Challa? Are they trying
That's
to
what
kill
it seems
T'Challa?
like. That's what it seems like.
been
Here's
saying
the
this-
reason why:
I've been saying
because
this for
Ryan
2
Coogler
years.
was allowed to murder the character. That's why. If Nate Moore was any kind of producer, he would not have allowed Ryan Coogler to do that. And if that's what Ryan Coogler wanted to do, he would have had him replaced as the writer and director.
Cornelius, I think he's talking about this guy that you were beefing with on Twitter.
Yeah.
Clinton shows Discord. He says, I think he's paid to.
But here's the thing: he doesn't have a blue check. And a lot of times when you see crazy, stupid comments from people, they have a blue check and they get paid for engagement. He doesn't have a blue check. And you may very well be right. But, if he's trying to sow discord, then why block me after I bring to his attention that his premise was wrong? So, I don't know.
He's an idiot.
That's clear. That is clear.
So, is Marvel trying to get rid of T'Challa? At the very least, they are sidelining the character to maintain consistency, to double down on their stupid ass decision to not recast the character.
On Ryan Coogler's stupid ass decision.
At least until Secret Wars reboots the entire MCU.
Supposedly.
It was asked by one of my partners on, I think it was Richard, on one of our recent shows, if I'm going to be, buying tickets to seeing Black Panther 3, which was recently announced, by the way, that they're going to do a Black Panther 3. I have so little interest in anything involving the MCU, honestly, at this point, until they have decided to recast the character of T'Challa.
Well, in fairness, the Deadpool Wolverine is part of the MCU, and I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Technically speaking, yes, I am looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine. But in general, specifically with regard to the Black Panther or the Wakanda universe or what have you, whatever you want to phrase
No
it.
interest, don't care.
If there's no recast of T'Challa, I'm not interested in TJ. I want the character to be recasted. And I think the only way they can recast the character is just reboot the entire MCU, which won't happen until Secret Wars, whenever that happens. So we're several years away from that ever happening.
The last time T'Challa was on screen was in 2019. So here we are 5 years later. We're talking that character may not be seen for another 10 years, and it's just absolutely a shame because it did not have to be that way.
Here's some news I hadn't heard of before. Frustrated says Bo
Show a
DeMayo
source.
is back as writer from my understanding.
Frustrated, show a source, because I've not seen, because I follow the dude on Twitter and I've not seen or heard anything about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either. That would be huge news. To bring a possible bright light to it, they may be saving the big boom with any T'Challa until the recast happens. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. I honestly think Marvel will recast the character. It just won't happen anytime soon. It won't happen until they've rebooted the entire MCU.
Which is
I
sick.
think that's what they're banking on. Hype Style says, I enjoyed X-Men 97. Loved my favorite X-Man, Nightcrawler, finally getting to be a regular character there. I wish he was a regular character back in the 90s show instead of a few paltry guest spots.
One of the coolest things about Nightcrawler in this series was how we got to see what it looks like for other people to be teleported, because Nightcrawler was teleporting Wolverine, and you got to see from Wolverine's perspective what that looks like, and I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was kind of a cool moment.
Yeah.
Ilika Spain says Tachanka was killed when T'Challa, I think he means T'Chaka,
He does.
was killed when T'Challa was doing his rite to passage manhood when he was a kid, and he blamed Storm for wasting his time with her instead of completing his mission as a teen.
I have no idea what that is. That doesn't sound really familiar.
T'Chaka.
He means T'Chaka.
Okay. Frustrated fan says the recast is coming because they gave us the egg in Secret Invasion.
I disagree with you there, Frustrated, because it would have been very easy for the okay.
Are you talking about the fact that they
hold on. The Secret Invasion storyline on TV was ass. It was just a sorry series. It was not done well at all. But that being said, they had the prime opportunity then to bring T'Challa back. And the way they could have done that is because we saw that Rhodey had been captured, and he's been missing God knows how long. You saw that Everett Ross has been replaced by a Skrull. At the end of the Secret Invasion storyline, where they were bringing all these people outside of the pods, they could have very easily had somebody be T'Challa coming out of the pod. And so a lot of folks who are not really Black Panther fans have said, oh, well, it just undoes everything that Wakanda Forever was about. Okay, fine. Who cares? Because that show had nothing to do with the main character of that property, who is T'Challa, right? So what they should have done, seeing the backlash of T'Challa being missing, they should have had a scene where T'Challa was being brought out of a pod that he had been captured and replaced by a Skrull, but they didn't do that. That's one of the things that I had said, 2 years ago. So yeah, I have no interest in it. I still, to this day, have not seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and I never will. I have no interest in any of these Black Panther related properties unless and until if it's based in modern times, unless and until it has T'Challa as a member. If they want to do some old stuff, 50, 100 years ago, okay, fine, I may check that out. But anything current that doesn't have T'Challa, nope, not interested.
It says when they returned, T'Challa maimed claw arm that made them forever enemies. Yes. Gray says there's a rumor that Damson Idris is their pick for T'Challa. He'll be from another universe with Storm, who's an unnamed actress, and they will be a package deal. Planet Fanatics covered it.
Okay,
well, shout out to Planet Fanatics. He did a great exposition on Black Panther 3. He says he has a source at Marvel to back it up. They're all rumors, of course, but
so at the end of the day, it means less than nothing. Damson Idris, at the end of the day, unless it's an official announcement, it means less than nothing. Damson Idris has been my number one since, at this point, 3.5
hour.
Okay, Paul. Our number one, going back to a week after the untimely death of Chadwick Boseman. But people seem to be saying stuff on social media means less than nothing unless and until it is backed up by an official source. Would it be nice if that happened? Absolutely. But I'd put no stock in anything that anybody says unless it's backed up by an official source.
I don't know, man. All right. So
one final thing real quick about what you're watching. There really hasn't been much that was Black related. I know, Paul, I mentioned Black Twitter on Hulu. I have not watched the second episode.
Second episode? Did you watch it yet?
Not. That's what I'm saying. I have not watched the second or more.
Let me tell you, the second episode, it was good. It was very good, but it was traumatic. I know one of the things, Mark, that you're big on is I don't like black trauma porn. It was trauma. It was traumatic. Because you're dealing with a time period, the end of the Obama era, the ascendancy of Trump and his Trumpalites, his MAGA people, and how Black Twitter basically got taken, or how Twitter, which really became Black Twitter, got taken over by Trump and the MAGA people as a backlash to the Obama era. It was a bit traumatic and hard to deal with. It was a good episode. Just there's a lot that happened in that episode that you're like, and then you're also talking about the Black Lives Matter, movement in response to the televised killings of Black people during that time, specifically on Ferguson, and how Twitter became the number one source of news for covering Ferguson. Because the major news outlets, if you recall at the time, weren't covering it, at least not fully. They were doing kind of a whitewashed, cleaned up version of covering what was happening in Ferguson. But
so hold on a second. Hold on.
Let me finish.
People may not know what Ferguson is.
Let me finish, Mark. Let me finish. The thing with Twitter is that it allowed everyone to use their phones and in essence become civil journalists. It's one thing to have filtered up, edited stories that you have on a news channel. It's another thing when you've got 100,000 people pulling out their phones and filming it live and using the same hashtag at the same time so that everyone can see in real time, unedited, what's actually going on. That's actually a very important cultural moment and a shift in how the use of social media can be done, can be a positive thing. Because if you want the truth, if you want unadulterated, unedited truth, it was a positive moment for social media. Go ahead.
So basically, going back to Ferguson, what a lot of people may not know, you may, be not be old enough to remember, but Ferguson was in Missouri, where a young man by the name of Michael Brown was murdered by a cop by the name of, I think his name was Darren or Daryl Wilson. Allegedly, Michael Brown, along with another individual, was walking across the street. They didn't go into the crosswalk, and the cop stopped them, engaged them. A battle ensued where unarmed Michael Brown, who was about 17 or 18 at the time, was gunned down by the cop. He was murdered. And this led to a large uprising calling for justice for Michael Brown. Unfortunately, the DA of Ferguson, Missouri, I believe it was, he didn't indict Daryl Wilson. Now, both Paul and I are ex-prosecutors. I was a prosecutor more recently than Paul was. And it is somewhat common knowledge that a DA's office can and will indict a ham sandwich if they really want to. I read some of the transcripts of the interview with the individual who was with Mike Brown the day that he was killed. The questions that the DA's office or the assistant DAs were asking him in front of the grand jurors were putting seeds of doubt into the minds of the grand jurors about the credibility of the state's own witness. That showed that they had no true interest in justice. They had no true interest in holding the cop accountable. So because Mike Brown, was killed being unarmed, that led to this outpouring of animosity that has been festering in our communities for years. Because prior to social media, prior to cell phones and things of that nature, we have known in Black communities that cops do, can, and will treat us any kind of way because they know that the system will support them and not hold them accountable. We saw that going way back to 1991 during the Rodney King thing. Well, the issue of Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin were some of the more recent incarnations of this that has finally started to bubble over, and we see this more frequently. You had George Floyd. You had the individual up in New York, Eric Garner. These things have continuously happened, and the Ferguson uh, situation just bubbled over. And as Paul said, you've got people now with their cell phones live tweeting, capturing exactly what happens without editorial direction from some news manager who's taking his or her direction from a corporate sponsor or whatever. So yeah.
All right. Just to see these last couple comments. Armistead Gualthy, what's up, Brooklyn? Another universe, sad, lazy writing, period, point blank. I think it's a reference
to T'Challa, yeah.
I'd like to see an animated movie of the Eric Jerome Dickey Storm miniseries with T'Challa. Get Bo DeMaio to adapt it. That would be fantastic. Although I don't.
I just wouldn't mind having an ongoing Black Panther series
because you had T'Challa and Storm having relations at a very young age. So that
right.
was a little...
Listen, I just wouldn't mind having an ongoing. There is no logical reason why they cannot have an ongoing Black Panther cartoon, right? How many different Spider-Man cartoons have we had? One of the main reasons why Spider-Man is one of an A-list characters is because he's ubiquitous. Every 3 to 5 years, you will get a brand new iteration of that character animated. There is no logical reason why T'Challa should not have his own series. We had the stop motion kind of cartoon that was based on the what's my man's name? God, it just left me.
Reginald Hudlin.
During the Hudlin run, right? Then after that, you had
Jeffrey Thorne's Avengers run, season 5.
Right, season 5 of the Avengers cartoon, which is basically a Black Panther central story.
It was a Black Panther series,
right? But other than that, there hasn't been. You get an animated Batman series every few years. Superman we just had a Superman series last year. There is no reason why T'Challa cannot be animated right now. I just don't get it.
It's as I said, is to be consistent with their decision to not recast the character. They don't want anything to do with T'Challa right now. That has not been voiced by Chadwick Boseman, because obviously they had the What If episodes that Chadwick Boseman had filmed prior to his passing. But other than that, we haven't had any new outside of comics Black Panther stuff.
And what I mean is, even before Chadwick died, why have we not, as I mentioned, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man specifically, those 3 characters continuously have animated series. The Fantastic Four at this point have had 3 separate series.
I don't see any evidence that they did not have any intention to do more stuff. In fact, if anything, the evidence would seem to indicate that T'Challa was going to be a major part of the next phase.
But that's
probably leading the Avengers at that point.
But that's after 2018. I'm talking about between 1968 and 2018. Think about how many different animated series of Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man that we've had from 1966 to 2008, 2016.
I mean, Mark, for all intents and purposes, although you and I have been longtime Black Panther fans, he was in essence a C-list character.
So was Iron Man. Yeah. Iron Man had a cartoon back in the 90s, as well as at least 2 animated movies. Okay, so Iron Man, when it comes to the overall world before 2008 and the creation of the MCU, outside of nerd culture, those of us who read and collect comic books, Iron Man was not a known entity. Despite that, he had his own animated series back in the early 90s, right? Sure. They could have done the same thing with T'Challa. The 2 of them from a Q level, and when I'm talking about popularity, Iron Man and T'Challa were neck and neck prior to 2008.
Well, no. T'Challa's Black.
As I said, when it came to popularity, they were neck and neck.
I agree with you 100%. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying the child.
Outside of comic book
You don't need any
collectors.
further explanation than that.
So we should have
I'm not
had.
I'm not even being coy when I say that. I mean, that's the reality of the situation.
We should have had that, and we should have that now. So
Man, I manifest Cyclops' abilities
were.
worked pretty well. They were. I love when he tore off his visor, which is what you see when he tries to go ham in the comics. So I thought that was cool to see in the cartoon. Elika Spain. I used to live Ferguson, St. Louis, Missouri. Very racist.
You live in America, so yeah. What is this episode?
What is this episode? What episode are you talking about?
Are you talking about the Fantastic Four episodes? Speak specifically, I Manifesto. Which one you're looking for? We'll tell you.
Brooklyn says, "Be this still the house of ideas."
Talking about
It's
Marvel.
the house of regurgitated ideas. I know Ferguson. What is the show?
Black Twitter on Hulu.
Oh, Black Twitter, yeah.
Black
Yeah, second
Twitter.
episode. Second episode.
Yeah.
Darren Wilson.
Yeah.
Azor Beast says Iron Man was part of at least 2 to 3 series. The original Iron Man series, Force Works. I forgot about Force Works. The CG Iron Man Teenager series, which actually I enjoyed that series, and multiple Avengers series.
Yeah.
Iron Man's had a lot of glow up prior to his movie coming out, but still C-list character. T'Challa had nothing during that time. He just had cameos at best.
And he should have. I've mentioned this before, but the Lazarus Project is one. It's the second season has already dropped and it's over and done with. But if you have not watched the Lazarus Project, I highly recommend that as well.
Right. Zor's Beast says agreed.
Yes.
All right, guys, we've been on here for over 3 hours. I'm tired and I have to put my daughter to bed, who apparently has insomnia and does not want to sleep. She just came into the room here. She's like, "Daddy, I can't sleep." And mommy's not here, so I'm going to try and get her to bed. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Please, 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 if you're watching us right now and you have not done so already, please take a second and like the video. It costs you absolutely nothing, but it really helps our algorithm. We finally hit 3,000 subscribers last week. We're trying to make the channel grow, and all you got to do is hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel as well. That also helps us and lets you know when we do these videos in the future. If you dig what we're doing, it'll allow you to know when we're doing it in the future. And finally, if you are so inclined, please share this video on your social media. Just repost it wherever you do, whatever you do on social media, and it would be tremendously helpful for us. That's all we ask. All right? That's our payment for what we do. Marc, you have any final words?
That's it. Thanks for joining us. MomoCon is here in Atlanta this weekend. I've never been. I think I may go tomorrow. It's another con that's anime centric, so I think I'm gonna go try to check that out tomorrow. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Marc, are you going to go to MomoCon? You said
I'm thinking about going tomorrow, yes.
If you go, look out for my boy Greg Burnham, the writer, and hit him up and check out the stuff he has. He does this series, Tuskegee Airs, among many others, Little Rock.
I have one of his books. Erica bought me one of his Tuskegee Air books, so I have that.
Yeah, check him out. Real cool brother, and you will appreciate the stuff that he's done.
Yep.
All right?
All right, guys. See you guys later.
So everyone, thank you very much. Take care. Black Comic Lords, we got you. Peace.